Hello, folks. We got a big crowd here tonight. I will call the January meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to order. Grayson, if you would do a roll call, please.
In attendance tonight, we have Tim Whitney, we have Richard Bodie, we have Councilor Hoffman, we have Jane LaRoche, we have Councilor Michael Dellavecchia, we have Tara Sorrell, we have Marcia Hayward, and we have Planning Director Rob Mora as staff in attendance, and I'm Grayson Draper. I will be taking the minutes.
Robert, we can switch up the order here a little bit. You do Chapman Terrace first.
Should we pass around the iPads?
The minutes next, Mike.
The iPads are right there. Can I have one?
Of course.
We all need one.
I don't use one.
You don't need one? You want one?
I'm old fashioned, I use paper.
Chapman Terrace is first on the agenda.
We could do the minutes.
If you want to do the minutes first, we can, and then Chapman Terrace is first on the agenda.
Okay. The minutes from the last meeting, everybody got to review them, I'm sure.
I make a motion to accept the revised minutes.
I will
What was
second.
revised, Marcia?
Oh, just a few things, nothing big. You know, some spelling, some, article numbers needed to be changed.
So it's acceptable?
Yes, it's acceptable.
We have a motion.
And I second it.
Thank you, Jane. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Nope. All righty. No extensions. First up is 86 Chapman Terrace. The applicant is appealing this decision that we made back in August to allow the use of short-term lodging where it is permitted by special exception.
Actually, a remand hearing. A remand hearing.
Remand hearing. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate Mahan. I represent the applicants, William and Andrea Vessels. William's here with me up front. Andrea's towards back with their children. It's a tight house tonight, so, and they're happy to come up and answer any questions that you have anywhere along the way. Just interrupt me. And we'd like to thank you for agreeing to have the Vessels application for a special exception reheard this evening. I understand the board is very familiar with the circumstances and the Vessels application, and I'll try not to belabor as we go along given your agenda tonight, but there are just a few points that I'd like to raise. The Vessels are longtime New Hampshire residents. The Vessels purchased 86 Chapman Terrace not as an investment property, but as a place they could, in the future, call their forever home. Until then, the plan for this property was to enjoy it as much as possible, but also to offer the house for short-term rentals to help defray the cost of the home. As the board is aware from previous hearings, the ability to rent and defray cost was an important factor for the Vessels in the purchase of this house. And they did everything they could reasonably think of to confirm that short-term rentals were permissible, including reaching out to the city twice for confirmation, and receiving confirmation twice from the city that short-term rentals were approved without any restrictions for this property. This was before they purchased the property. These efforts are presented in the affidavits that are before you as part of the record and are not disputed. I'll turn to the criteria for the special exception, understanding that you consider this property to be part of the RS zone. And I'll note too, as I discuss these criteria, I don't want to repeat myself, but understand that many of the facts that I'm talking about may be applicable to more than one of the criteria that we're discussing tonight. First, that this use is allowed in the Laconia zoning ordinance under Article 23570C2. And this board has already deemed this criteria to be satisfied in its original decision, so I'm not going to spend more time on that here, but it is an accepted use with special exception, as the chair had already indicated. Second, this application will not increase demand for municipal services. The property already enjoys municipal water, sewer, trash pickup, and utilities, so it will not add a new demand. And indeed, given that it will not be constantly occupied, it may decrease the level of demand associated with the property. As far as the need for emergency services, which I know was something that came up at the last couple of hearings on this, the vessels will leverage their over 10 years in property maintenance or management experience to implement systems and protocols to ensure the highest levels of care, safety, and accountability are maintained to minimize this. Any rental agreement will require strict adherence to house rules. And just some example of those rules include no house parties, no fireworks, no outdoor music. There will be no impact on access to the house or the street for emergency vehicles. The house comes with an expansive 19 by 60 driveway with sufficient room for 4 vehicles, and any rental lease will be limited to 4 vehicles. So everybody will be able to park in the driveway. And in fact, there will be an express prohibition against street parking in the house rules, which of course are part of the lease that anybody would sign to be able to rent the property. The number of guests are also going to be capped at 10, which is consistent with the 5 bedrooms the house offers. All guests will need to be registered, and the vessels intend to restrict the number of unregistered visitors that are permitted at the house. The vessels commit to actively monitoring the house for compliance with these rules. The house has outdoor cameras for that purpose. And to be clear, the vessels understand and appreciate that this is a quiet neighborhood, and they are invested in keeping it that way as they want to make this neighborhood their home in the future. As Mr. Vessel said at an earlier meeting, it is their strong hope that at the end of the day, they operate in such a way that no one is even aware that short-term rentals are occurring. Turning to criteria C, the vessels will fulfill all special provisions set forth in the chapter. This criteria is satisfied in that they will register with the city, maintain insurance, and meet all safety requirements, some of which I have already described. As previously mentioned, the vessels have experience in property management and a detailed plan to implement protocols for safety, maintenance of the property, and guest accountability, drawing from that experience. Safety measures required by the city will be complied with. And although this perhaps goes to the next criteria, I'll note here that the house has smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, fire extinguishers, and outside lights to increase visibility for safety. And if there are other measures required by the city for safety, those will be implemented. And with that, we believe this criteria is also satisfied. The next criteria, that the requested use will not create hazards to the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. There is no question, at least in my view, that this criteria is satisfied. As the vessels described in their application and original presentation, and I'll reiterate here, the property is a well-maintained property, professionally serviced year-round. The strict house rules prohibit unsafe behavior, which rules, again, are part of any rental agreement for use of the property. The vessels will enforce quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., preclude parties and events, and to further limit any disruption that may occur with turnover, require longer stays during peak summer months. And again, there's no street parking. It's also important to note that the vessels live in New Hampshire. They are not a family that's going to fly in once a year and then be absent for the rest of the year. The vessels use this property for their own enjoyment routinely. They can be on site within an hour and have committed to do so. To the extent issues may arise, they have proactively tried to address those through the institution of these house rules and systems, but also by reaching out to their neighbors and making sure that they know how to reach the vessels if questions or concerns do arise. And of course, there's no greater risk with a short-term renter than there is with someone who is staying 2 weeks or longer, which would not have to receive a special exception, or even an inconsiderate permanent resident. Quite to the contrary, the protocols and expectations placed on any renter at the vessel's property likely puts them in a better position than a long-term renter or owner as far as being a considerate neighbor. Turning to the last criteria, the vessels agreed that they must satisfy criteria E2, that is, the applicant can offer evidence that granting the special exception for this property includes a community benefit. As this board has recognized on a number of previous occasions in considering requests for special exceptions for short-term rentals, this type of use provides a community benefit in that it draws people to into this area and brings in local tourism dollars and boosts the local economy as they go to local restaurants, shops, etc. Families no longer want to be stuck in a single hotel room. They look for short-term rentals where they can enjoy the amenities of a home and a little space while also enjoying the area. Of course, this means active tax dollars without the commensurate draw on, for example, the school system. The vessels also are committed to engaging in a charitable purpose, as they have done with each of their businesses. If granted, they intend to offer a complimentary stay for a local veteran. In sum, the vessels have carefully reviewed and optimized their home to be consistent with Laconia's requirements to allow this special exception. Special exceptions for short-term rentals in this RS zone have routinely been approved by this board on applications nearly identical to the ones before you for the vessels, including Parade Road, for example, that had a very similar application and was approved. The vessels are committed to maintaining a well-maintained home in keeping with the neighborhood, and as it is a neighborhood that they hope to join on a permanent basis in the years to come. And for this, we ask that you grant the application. And I also would request an opportunity to respond to any comments opposed to the application, if I may. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for the attorney?
I do not.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, I have to ask if there's any residents, neighbors that want to speak for or against this matter. Yes, sir. How do you do, sir?
Good evening to all the board members. My name is Tim Gilligan. I reside at 94 Chapman Terrace. And my wife and I purchased our home about 10 years ago. And we're right next door to the vessels. And would it be okay if I did a handout? I put together some handouts with some
Certainly.
information I feel is very important. I'm not quite sure, I know.
You can pass it out for you.
Okay. There's 6 upstairs, that's all I had. I thought there was 5 on the board.
We got 5 regular members and there's 2 alternates.
Okay.
Don't fall down.
Make sure you give a copy to Kate.
Thank you. Okay, when we met the vessels, William introduced himself as Keith. I see his applications in the name of William. In order to minimize confusion, I'll refer to him by his name in the application as well. William, that's no disrespect. And this is not a personal thing either, as I stated at the August 18th meeting. We met the vessels shortly after they purchased the house on July 2nd. We're a retired couple. We're not in favor of the ZBA granting this special exception in accordance with Chapter 235, Article 5 to the appellants. Despite what they say in their application, the criteria, restrictions, and conditions have not been met. Under Chapter 235-41M, short-term lodging, the requirement is very clearly written under number 1, permitted or prohibited in the following zones. A, permitted in CR, commercial resort, and SFR, shorefront residential zones with no limitations on number of separate rental periods. B, prohibited in I, industrial IP, industrial park, AI, which is airport industrial zones, and prohibited in all other zones except when the property is owner occupied. I, short-term lodging, and this is verbatim, short-term lodging is an owner-occupied property. In an owner-occupied property is considered an allowed accessory use only if the owner of the property resides in the property for not less than 150 days. This is not being met. When I spoke with William a couple hours before the first ZBA meeting on August 18th, he said that they're vetting the renters. As I dug in deeper, I came to realize there really isn't much vetting when it comes to Airbnb. It's like getting a hotel reservation. As long as you have a credit card, you haven't burned a bridge in the past, you're basically good to go. I've owned rental units for over 40 years, and I've seen a lot, and I've seen it all. I hate to say it, and not all of it's good. I've been burned, unfortunately, many times. I don't want to find myself having to be policing their guests when bad situations happen, whether it be a week, a month, 6 months, a year down the road. We don't need this in a residential neighborhood, and we certainly don't want it right next door to us. You know, this is our dream home. This is where we retired to. Short-term lodging is often for a vacation or attending a celebratory type of an event. And I also understand that, you know, in the celebrations, much of the time alcohol is involved. And with short-term lodging or Airbnb, VRBO, all you need to do is watch the news or read the newspapers, talk to people, and see there are so many problems with the guests. This is not the Weirs Beach area with bars, restaurants, arcades, a beach, seasonal cottages. That area is zoned CR, Commercial Resort. That's where these type of short-term rentals belong. Anyone familiar with short-term lodging knows that you make much more money on short-term lodging than you do on longer monthly or 6-month or 12-month deals. Well, if it's really not about money, I don't know why they don't just do long-term rental. Why not be fair to the rest of the neighbors who don't want this in our neighborhood? Chapman Terrace is a family neighborhood. Our neighborhood is owned RS, residential single family. When we met with the Vessels in July, they said that they had been given bad information from someone in the zoning department. They explained the situation, and we expressed how sorry we were, and we really were. But should our quality of life have to change because someone in the zoning office made a mistake? Fast forward into later July. William grabbed my wife and I, we were outside, and asked us if we'd be okay with them renting out when they weren't using the house. And right away I said, what do you mean by renting it out? I said, you mean like just with family when you're not around or something? And they pretty much led me to believe it was going to be a very rare thing. And that's how we left that's the impression it left on us. And I said, William did give me his business card. He told us to call immediately if there was any issues, renters or anything. There was no mention of Airbnb or Vrbo. After the discussion about the Vessels renting it out once in a while, we were approached by another neighbor who asked us if we were going to the meeting August 18th, and I said no. And the neighbor asked me why I wasn't going, and I said, because I don't see anything wrong. It's just going to be a once in a while thing when they aren't using it. My neighbor was a bit surprised that we weren't going to attend. Within the next few days, another neighbor flagged me down in the street and said, do you realize that they're trying to put an Airbnb and are looking to do short-term lodging rentals over there? And I said, I did not know that. I said, and I was not aware of an Airbnb situation. And I said, I'd look into it when I see the certified letter. We hadn't seen the letter yet, as we had to pick it up at the post office, and we kept missing it. Well, when we got the letter, I started looking deeper and deeper into it. There was much more to it than William told me, and I was surprised. Well, now we feel like we were totally misled. You see, the Vessels claimed they were given bad information from the zoning office. I like to believe it was probably a human error. Well, was it human error that William left out the most important part of this whole entire situation when speaking to me and my wife? Okay? He never mentioned anything about Airbnb, and it turned out he was already advertising on Airbnb before. Well, again, we felt misled, and we too were given bad information by William. And he mentioned Airbnb. If he had even mentioned Airbnb, I would have had absolutely not. I would have been totally against it. I spent the entire day before that meeting trying to get my arms around the situation, researching Laconia.gov's site as well as other resources. At that point, I realized that I needed to be at the meeting, and I needed to call William to let him know that I was going to be at this meeting. I didn't feel it was right for me to blindside him and just show up in opposition regardless of the fact he wasn't 100% upfront with his intentions. It was a very cordial discussion. During the discussion, William tried to convince me that there would be no problems, and I said, with all due respect, I said, you cannot predict that. When people go away, especially to an Airbnb, they like to let loose and have a good time. And much of that time, alcohol is involved. People do and say things that they wouldn't have done when they're under the influence. And I said, if you're not there, how can you control their behavior? He said, call any time, and he would get short renters out of there. I said, is it my responsibility to call him? I have serious health issues. I'm 66 years old. Do I need to be policing guests that don't follow the rules? Do I need to be calling him late in the evenings or in the middle of the night? Do I need to be calling the police? William said he understood. The conversation ended very cordially. Well, there were 4 situations that happened immediately following that, after they were renting it out, without authorization, by the way. On July 18th at about 9 o'clock, I'm sitting on my couch, and all of a sudden there's 2 corgi dogs. And if I'm sitting here, it's the couch, and my deck is here, the sliders are right here. And two dogs are standing right outside my sliders, which is fine. We love dogs, right? So it wasn't a big deal. But we were sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden, the 2 dogs come up my deck, and they look at me. Then a woman comes up, and she came over to the deck just as I was inside the slider, sitting on my couch. I was in my underwear watching TV. And I didn't realize at the time that they were Airbnb or short-term lodging renters. We thought that they were family of our new neighbors. The woman stated she was afraid to go down the 6 or 7 stairs. I was in my underwear, so I couldn't go outside, but I directed her to the stairs over to the left, and I just said, there's only 2 steps there. We were thankful she didn't fall, and she didn't get around all that well, to be honest with you. And what if she did fall? With liability issues and everything today, it's insane. Their dog did business on our grass They offered to pick it up. My wife said she'd do it, again, thinking that they were family of our new neighbors. Second incident, different guests. We're sitting eating dinner on our deck, and with our dog beside us, and the dog came over. Next thing you know, it's chaos on our deck, and our dog gets rattled with other dogs. Our dog's 130 pounds. He's probably the biggest lab you've ever seen, but he's the biggest wimp. But he gets rattled by anything. And it caused chaos while we were eating, but it was no big deal. We thought. Third incident, different guests again. We were sitting out on the deck, very close to our property, around 9:45, and we heard a huge bang or a crash that sounded like it came from next door. My wife was frightened. We have an outside louvered wall that separates the properties. So, we can hear a lot, but we can't really see it. So my wife wanted me to get a flashlight. She wanted me to walk around, which I did. I checked all around the house, the yard, the garage, and the attic of the garage, and we didn't find out what happened. It was extremely loud, and it disrupted our evening, to say the least. Last fourth incident. These were different renters as well, and it was a dog barking situation. This was on August 20th, 2 days after they were denied a special exception. They were still renting it out short-term. I'd been out. When I got home, my wife told me how bad the barking was next door and that she had recorded it. A while later, one of our neighbors came banging on the door asking for the vessel's phone number. They knew I had Mr. Vessel's number from his presentation at the zoning board. I had his business card. They said they were calling the police because the Airbnb renters had apparently gone out and left the dog behind and had been barking nonstop for about 4 hours with the window open. And it was outrageous. It really was. We couldn't sit on our patio. And again, my wife recorded it. Let me know. I can let her. She's in the back, and I can let her know if you want to hear it. We feel as though we purchased. Excuse me. We feel as though they purchased this house with the intention of renting it out as part of their KAV Properties business, which, as you can see in the handouts, is a business. Their industry is listed as activities related to real estate, as well as real estate and rental leasing. Excuse me. We don't need investors raiding our residential neighborhoods with Airbnbs that don't live there. They rented the house out at least 3 times, short-term, before they were approved or disapproved at the October 18th meeting, and they continue to. This is a violation of Laconia, New Hampshire's Chapter 235, and I can get into the -82 or whatever, but penalty start with first violation, warning, second violation, civil penalty, $275 a day for every day that it continues. The third violation is revocation of the permit with a mandatory 1-year waiting period before applying for reinstatement. We have pictures of the different vehicles and the times and so forth that we have logged. We're not asking the board to levy any fines on them at this time, okay, unless they continue to ignore the law. And if this appeal is denied, I'm hopeful that these zoning violations will be enforced going forward. How responsible are the vessels as hosts if they clearly did not follow the law? There's reasons that there are different areas for zoning in the city. And if these new owners get the special exception, it'll have a direct effect on our quality of life and our neighbors as well. Many of the neighbors have been on the street for over 20 and 30 years, and it's not right. They're currently advertising on Airbnb short-term lodging. I checked our VRBO as recently as yesterday. I believe it reflects in the pictures there, January 19th. And short-term lodging, less than 15 days was available, because it was available for 11 days when I tried it. And that was even after they were denied. And we were surprised and upset. According to William, the rental agreement stated that dogs must be on a leash. This is a prime example of short-term renters not following the rules, as 2 of the incidents had to do with the renters not doing something that simple. And this is not about dogs. We're dog lovers. This is about the renters not following the rules. Renters don't always follow the rules. I know. Abutting and neighboring property values would be negatively affected in this special exception. Excuse me, and if it's approved in this residential single-family neighborhood. This could have a domino effect in the neighborhood and other areas that are RS in the city of Laconia. No one wants to live next door or across the street from an Airbnb or a short-term lodging rental. We're retired, and we, excuse me, and we would not have purchased this home. And that's the truth. 10 years ago, it was our dream to retire there, and it took us about 6 years to be able to retire there. But 4 years, we've been living there almost 6 now, full-time. I guarantee you, we wouldn't have even entertained it, because I know the history of these things, and they're not good. And they mentioned in their application under summary of argument and community benefit that their children are not going to school in Laconia, and that saves the city $42,000 annually. Well, we've been paying taxes for over 10 years without having any children in the school system here. And our neighbor to our right, he's been here 30 years, and he's never had children. So he's been doing the community a benefit for a long time too, and there are several families, most that don't have school children up and down Chapman Terrace, who have been paying for decades without children. The Vessels live about an hour away. They won't have to live with it. The residents on Chapman Terrace will. They can't predict good behavior. They can't control their guests when they're not there. We're the ones that'll have to deal with it. As stated by a zoning board member at the August 18, 2025 meeting, it would be basically an unregulated rooming house or a hotel right next door. People turning over regularly, coming and going. You know, they bought the house on July 2nd. They spent a couple of weeks getting the house ready and started renting it out again, and after the 18th meeting of the 18th as well. Now, I know they went long-term with a couple of the people they rented it to in late September and into October and into November, but prior to that, they were all short-term, and they were all before. But anyways, in the handouts that I gave to the board members, there's pictures of some of the Airbnb and the VRBO listings. One example of this is an Airbnb shows renting of 1 week for $2,226 for 7 nights. This was on January 14th. I'm not sure, I'm sure that they'd be outraged if the tables were turned. Actually, when William and I talked before the meeting, he said he would feel the same way. He understood what I was talking about when I called him before that first meeting, okay? And my wife, and if you'd like, I can bring the notes up. My wife keeps notes when I ask her to do, when I was talking to him, because I wanted to make sure in case I missed something, she had it. So, at any rate, she had the notes, and it was in the notes that William had said that he understood. And I wrote it, that comment was right in my wife's notes. We talked to him 2 hours before the meeting on August the 18th. They don't live here full-time. It's not owner-occupied. They don't reside here for a minimum of 150 days. Airbnb and short-term lodging does not belong in a single residential neighborhood. In summary, we've owned this home for 10 years. We've resided there full-time for almost 6. Again, we're retired, and this is our home. We should not have to suffer, have our quality of life and that of our neighbors affected by this situation next door. I strongly urge the board members to deny this special exception appeal, and I apologize for the lengthy presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming in, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Hildreth. I'm here as a citizen of Ward 1. I think the key here is the 150 days. This was put into the regs at its outset, and the spirit, I spoke to the person who wrote it, the spirit of that 150-day ability for a resident to use their house for short-term rentals was for those people in Laconia, long-term residents, who have maybe retired, their taxes have gone up. This was to help them rent their place for a few weeks to offset those taxes and use for extra income. I think that's the key, is the 150 days that is not being met here. I think it's clear that the owners have a business doing this, and we have a housing stock in Laconia, a problem with housing stock. And if we allow this to happen and people to just come in, buy up properties and rent them short-term, use them for short-term lodging, that reduces our housing stock. It changes the neighborhood wherever they are. And in the RS neighborhood, I think it would be a big mistake, in my opinion, to grant this, as this will invite more and more businesses to come in, buy up housing stock, and use it for short-term leasing.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please.
My name is Heidi Preuss. I live 86 Anthony. My family, we lived for 50 years on Chapman Terrace. And I currently own an Airbnb in a residential neighborhood. So I live in my house, and I have a rental in my basement that I allow people to use in the summer. And I can tell you that it is the reason that I can still live here in Laconia. So I'm exactly the example that John is describing, where this makes it possible for me to continue to live here because it augments my income so that I can continue to live in my house. So I understand, the thing is, this rule has been in place for like 5 or 6 years now. So anybody that researched it should be able to understand, should have been able to find the rule that says you have to live in the property in order to rent it. Secondly, I think Terry just mentioned that one of the other expectations is you cannot rent it short-term between October, like November 1st through May 1st. So already that's another rule that's already being broken at this time. I follow the Laconia Airbnb law pretty carefully because I'm impacted by it. And I think it is currently a really good balance between trying to, offer somebody like me an opportunity to support my ability to stay here without it turning into a commercial property. I think what's important to remember is that all of this rule came about because of 1345 Old North Main Street a couple of years ago. I mean, I currently know the people that live there. And what happens is, if you don't live there, if you're not there, you have really very little control about what happens. And I know that, because I'm at my house. I watch my people like hawks. I hate being out of town if I have rentals because I want to know what's going on. And I don't think you can do that from a distance. Again, what John said, if we make our shorefront properties, our residential neighborhoods, if we make those possible for commercial rentals, we end up diminishing our housing stock, increasing prices of homes because they now have a commercial value, and we also impact all of the neighbors that are involved. I think that's really critical, and I think that's an important thing to weigh in terms of, if you let one go, it's going to be a bigger problem, and I think that's important. Also, I think, let's see, I've got it. People that don't live here don't have a vested interest in the city. And also, these rules have been around for 4 or 5 years, because I know I've gone through 2 inspections under these new regulations that are currently in place. And if you are not doing the research to find that information and you're trying to find a way now to find an exception, that means, in my mind, you are not going to be a responsible or an accountable person for the rules that exist. And already, as I said, there's not only are we doing a short-term rental in a place that it's not allowed, in a way that it's not allowed, and it's been on the books for multiple years, we're also even doing it in a time period that's not allowed. So already 2 different things are being broken in terms of the rules. So I think those are important things to consider in terms of this situation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Heidi. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm a council representative for Ward 6, and this happens to be in my ward. And I have heard from many of the neighbors.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Mike Conant. And I actually met with a couple of the neighbors. One of them, it was a lengthy meeting where we researched the entire situation, and we tried to look at it from the new owner's perspective into what they may have wanted to do, but we also looked at what Laconia has done for an ordinance to protect neighborhoods. It's clear that the folks that purchased this home did not purchase it because they want to live in Laconia and enjoy our great city. And that is really the differentiating factor there, that we don't want to set a precedent where business owners can come in and buy up homes in our wonderful city and drive our residents out. You as a board have a responsibility to the Laconia citizens, and I hope you make the right choice.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
comments, Councilman. Was somebody in the back? Hello.
Hello. Well, my name is John Lynn. I live on 104 Chapman Terrace, 2 houses down from the property we're discussing. I've been there 30 years, and it was a whole different neighborhood 30 years ago. Now, we've had people move in, a couple doors down, 78 Chapman Terrace, some kind of rock and roll band, always music, cars parked all over the place, fireworks all night. And we don't need to have that multiplied by 2 from people coming up, renting the property, and we have no idea who they are or what they're gonna do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that all being said, I will close the public hearing. Nope. How do you do?
Hi, I'm Mike Zagarelli. I live at 85 Chapman Terrace, directly across the street. So I've lived there for 10 years now, and it was great. We moved in. We had a bunch of families in the area with kids. I have 2 kids, and they're in the school system. I have a middle schooler and a high schooler. So we were thrilled when we heard a family was moving in across the street. My daughters have no one on the street. We have no one. There's maybe 2 families on Franklin. I think there's nothing on Washington. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have families moving into our area. This is kind of what this area is for, to have families here, so the kids can play together and use the park. Like, that's what I want to see. So having, all vacation houses on the other side of us, my kids have no one to play with, So when they were young, it really, I was the one who had to go out and play because we had nobody to play with. Or I'd go up to the park with them, and, so it's just, I'd like to see some families move into the neighborhood. It'd be great. I guess, so with that, I want to say that let's leave Lakeport, to us and not the tourists. Like that's what the Weirs is for. So other than that, we have a dead end also. It's not posted as a dead end, but it's only for emergency vehicles on the one side, and we've had a lot of crime. So we've had porch pirates coming down trying to steal things. We had a big case in Laconia for it because they were taking things off our property. So I don't want complete strangers living across the street from me. I want people I can trust, people I know. I know all my neighbors down the street, almost all of them. And I trust them to look after my place when I'm not there. I don't have that if I don't know who's in the place. And I have 2 young daughters. I don't feel comfortable with that at all. So that's all I got.
Thanks for your comments,
Thank you.
sir. You would like to speak again? I
Yes,
assume?
very briefly.
Please come
I
up.
promise. Very briefly. I appreciate all of the comments from Mr. Gilligan and others who have come up. I appreciate and understand their feelings. But the fact is, the city of Laconia has approved this as a permitted use. That's the bottom line. If there is a mass that doesn't like it, I think there are steps to take. But today, this is a permitted use. I respectfully disagree with the interpretation that some of the members of the public have spoken about up here as far as the ordinance. I think there's a misinterpretation of some of the provisions here, but your counsel is here, and she can direct you to the appropriate criteria and where it is a permissible use expressly in the residential zone. And I just want to address a couple of Mr. Gilligan's comments because I think it's important. There were a couple of short-term rentals in July. That was before the vessels were made aware that the information they received from the city was incorrect. Since that time, there have been a couple of long-term rentals, as I understand it, and they'll correct me if that's wrong. So that would not fall under this. So there has been nothing untoward. This is all that is permitted under the zoning ordinance. I actually think it is, to the extent Mr. Gilligan was raising questions about the renters during those long-term rentals. I think it just reflects that this can happen at any time. Short-term renter, long-term renter, owner of the property, if the person is inconsiderate. And I think, again, the vessels have done everything in their power, if this is permitted, to have rigid, strict protocols that are part of the lease. So if someone is not abiding by that, they are in breach of their lease agreement. And again, they're actively monitoring the property. And I wanted to, although I didn't mention it in my opening comments, I wanted to mention that it is not, the way that it is being marketed is not intended to be a party house. Again, parties and other events are expressly prohibited if this were to go forward. I think I will leave it there unless there are any additional questions for me. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. With that being said, we'll close the public hearing. And do we want to make comments?
Do you want me to make some comments? So,
Introduce yourself to the public.
sure, yeah. My name is Laura Spector-Morgan. I'm one of the city's attorneys from the Mitchell Municipal Group, and the board did want me to sort of explain the process to the public, because we have to have these public hearings. The law requires that we have public hearings, but what's important to understand is that whether or not to grant a special exception is not a vote of the public. It's not a popularity contest. The public hearings are intended to allow the public to comment on the special exception criteria. And the board, as much as they take in your comments and understand and respect your feelings, is bound by those special exception criteria. So the ordinance does allow short-term lodging in a non-owner occupied property by special exception in this district. That is permitted by your zoning ordinance. And the zoning ordinance does give very specific special exception criteria. The vessels have filled out an application addressing those special exception criteria, and you heard their attorney address them tonight. So the board's decision tonight is based solely on whether the board members feel that those special exception criteria have been met. Nothing more, nothing less. And you may or may not agree with the board's determination. If you don't agree with it and you have standing, you have every ability to challenge that under the law. But the board can't simply decide that, well, the neighbors don't want it, so we have to deny it. That's not an appropriate basis to deny it. So I wanted to make that clear. And that's not true just of this application, that's true of every application. But, you know, it's hard for them to sit up here and hear everyone say, we don't want it, and then to objectively apply the criteria, but that is their job. So that's what they will be doing tonight.
Thank you.
Sure.
That being said, discussion amongst the board.
I have a question.
Yes, of course.
Number 4, criteria number 4, the request use will not create hazards to the health, safety, or general welfare of the public.
Yes.
After hearing the comments about some of the problems they have experienced.
Yes.
Can that not be applied, that it has been a concern to the public, to the neighbors, with he's got dog problems, or he's got, you know, noise problems, or whatever?
We heard comments about two situations with loose dogs, one situation with a barking dog, and one situation with a loud bang.
Right.
Yes, if you think that is a hazard to health, safety, or general welfare, certainly you are entitled to find that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Director, quick question. So there are two different lists of requirements for this special exceptions. One is for owner-occupied and one is for non-owner occupied. Could you just rehearse that with us?
There's not separate criteria for owner-occupied. There's a criteria for a special exception for short-term lodging. It is permitted right if it is owner-occupied for less than 150 days. So if they were owner-occupied and doing it for 150 days, or we get to they would not need the special exception.
Okay. And question, so at the moment, there are some changes that are coming through in the short-term leasing. Again, if there are changes that take place in the future, are those retroactive? Will all, any residents with current STLs be required to update their application with that, or be required to be held to those new requirements?
I'm sure Laura could probably answer this more articulate than I can, but I would be under the assumption that they would be then a grandfathered non-conforming use under the current zoning ordinance.
Anyone who, if the zoning ordinance is changed to be more restrictive,
Right.
anyone who currently exists now and is legally permitted would get to continue their operation. If the zoning ordinance becomes less restrictive, then they would have the benefit of that as well.
Does that include short-term rentals they have to renew every 2 years? So do they have to then be part of the new criteria? Or they are
So the,
locked in?
the short-term rental permits are not actually under the zoning ordinance. Am I correct about that?
Currently, they are.
Okay.
In the new proposed ordinance, we have removed the permit requirement.
Okay.
So where does it go if it's not under zoning at that point?
There
This-
would be no permit.
The special, it's by special exception then.
Okay, understood, yeah. Maybe you could explain that to the public.
Sure, so there are zoning ordinance amendments in the pipeline that would remove the requirement both for a special exception and a permit.
So in the new proposed ordinance, if, it would be a requirement for a special exception if it was owner occupied. It would not be permitted if it wasn't owner occupied. They would need to get a variance.
Okay, so under the new zoning ordinance, the permit requirement would be gone. However, if you were owner occupied, it would no longer be a permitted use. You would need to get a special exception. And if it were not owner occupied, it would not be permitted by special exception, you would need variance. So it would be a more restrictive zoning system. Correct. So anyone who is legally permitted right now could continue under the permissions they have. Anyone that is not legally permitted right now would have a harder time establishing a short-term rental.
Alrighty. I vacation 3 times a year for the last 5 years, and we stay at a short-term rental every single time instead of hotels because we meet with family and go to places like the Azores, Portugal. I was in London for New Year's, and we stayed at a Airbnb right downtown Boston. A beautiful old building, was built in 1800. The advantage is there's 3 couples there, and instead of being in like a hotel where you go out to eat and you can't sit around all in the same room, I just believe in short-term rentals, Airbnbs, VRBO, whatever you want to call it. Believe it's good for the community to bring people in like that. So the last time this was up before us, we had a split vote. And I just want to express how I feel, and we'll go from there.
And I'm sorry, I'm not aware, who are the regular members and who are the alternates?
I'm the chairman.
Yes,
We have Marcia.
yes,
She is my vice chair. Eric, Jane, and Richard.
okay, thank you,
And we have Tara and Tim are alternates.
thank you.
I believe these people run a good operation. I was in favor of them the last time they were here, and I think it's a benefit, not a hindrance to the neighborhood. You get neighbors coming in from all over the country, all over the world. People from Europe will come and stay here, and you get to talk with them. It's not a bad thing. If done responsibly. I know there's problems. There's always going to be a problem. But the little puppy running next door up on the deck is not really a problem. dog barking incessantly. I feel sorry for Mr. Gilligan. I don't want you to be a policeman, sir. I don't feel you have to be a policeman, and hope you never have to be. But a phone call to the vessels, if there is a problem, is not that much of a hindrance. That being said, I'll hear some comments from the rest of the board. Eric, please.
Well, I was initially opposed to this, and I've remained opposed to it. I think looking at the special exception criteria, E, sub-criteria 2, the applicant can offer convincing evidence that granting the special exception for this property includes a general community benefit that rises above the financial gains of the applicant. I feel like approving this puts the financial gains of the applicant above the spirit of the ordinance and above the character of the neighborhood. I just can't in good conscience support this.
Can you just elaborate on that some more? Because you're talking spirit of the ordinance, and those are variance criteria. So
Sure.
Can you just talk a little bit more about why you don't think there's a community benefit?
Well, I think the community benefit of preserving single-family residence neighborhoods outweighs the benefit of bringing a little extra tourism dollars to the community.
Thank you.
Very good. Marcia?
I've already, I was opposed before, I'm still opposed. I know that the dog barking isn't a big deal, probably isn't, and he probably could have given a phone call to the vessels and everything. But the sheer point that these people were exposed to issues that they didn't have to have if they didn't have renters there, I think is unfair to the neighbors because of this transient kind of population. And I am totally in agreement with Eric that I think it's important to preserve the single-family residential neighborhood without, I think that's more beneficial to the neighbors, to the community, than to turn it into a commercial zone for whatever few dollars they're gonna spend at the Colonial or downtown Laconia. I am not in favor.
So which criteria do you think that goes to?
Well, I agree with Eric on number 5B, for the same reason. But I was talking about 4 also. If somebody hadn't come up here and said they had a problem, I wouldn't even have said anything or thought about 4. But we did have somebody come up and say they had a problem with the transient nature, with 3 different problems because of 3 different renters. And because you get that transient situation, you're gonna be more inclined to have problems, and I don't think that was fair to the neighbors. He expressed having a problem, so therefore, if he hadn't expressed having a problem, I probably would have been okay. But he had a problem, a neighbor had a problem, so now I'm not being speculative, am I?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
So, I'm generally in favor for the reasons that I do feel that the applicant has met the provisions that are right here. And I have a hard time saying that I'm going to penalize somebody in the future for something that hasn't taken place yet. I think that relative to this, all of the issues that were here could have been maybe different properties, or it was before the current owners knew what was going on, maybe understood the weight of importance to make sure that their people do what they're supposed to do. I think they do know that now. And so I feel that they have met the requirements of these portions of the chapter.
Boy, Jane, it's all on you.
Well, I have a problem with their disregard to our decision, where they continue to advertise it.
Well,
I mean, that's just a disregard for.
in fairness,
Yeah,
they've continued to advertise it for long-term rentals, not for short-term
Which are
rentals.
permitted.
all right.
They've continued to advertise it for long-term rentals, not short-term rentals. What you have in front of you does not show that you can actually book it for a short-term rental. No one has pressed the book button and been able to book it. The public hearing is closed. I don't know,
No,
Counselor, whether, I know you were looking at that earlier, I don't know whether you were able to confirm or deny that.
Well, I mean, judging from the, the handouts that, I had the same question. And judging from the handouts, it does appear that it was available for rent. The representation for the applicant claims that they have only rented it out for long-term rentals. I can't prove that that's not true, but
It's up to,
it
what do
does
you
concern me.
believe?
Well, I agree with Eric's comments that he previously said, without repeating them.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
well, it's time to move on. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion if I'm reading this right, I think it's 3 no and 2 affirmative. Am I correct? Or not?
Well, Jane's flip-flopping.
You gotta make a motion, figure that out.
Well, I think when you have a denial, it's gotta be pretty clear. I mean, in terms of the facts, so I will make a motion to deny, the application ZB 2026-004 for the special exception from Article 5, Section 235-26 for the following finding of facts. The short-term lodging criteria is as follows. The use is specifically authorized. Yes, it is. So there's no problem there. Number 2, the request use will not increase demand in municipal services. There isn't any indication that it will cause an increase in water or sewer than a regular home. There are no special provisions that have been set forth. That would be number 3. Number 4, the request will not create hazards to the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. And where there were comments this evening that a neighbor experienced problems that were disconcerting to that individual by 3 different renters, I think that having a short-term rental will influence or affect the welfare of the general public, especially the welfare of the neighbors. Number 5, the request must meet one of the 2 following criteria. Well, we can't talk about number A because it has not been in use for less than 5 years. So we have to go to B. And it says the applicant can offer convincing evidence that granting the special exception for the property includes a general community benefit that arises above the financial gains of the applicant. And with this denial, I feel that there is a very important gain for the city of Laconia to maintain its single-family residential stature or community character over the financial gains that come to the owner by renting it out. The single-family residential character is more important for the city of Laconia than to have a transient population in that neighborhood. And for that reason, I feel that number 5B is not met and number 4 is not met in my motion.
Thank you, Marcia. We
I'll
have
second.
a motion. Eric, second. Further discussion amongst the board. The lakefront property is attractive. It brings good people to the community. They're paying a hefty price to stay there. It's not like you're getting the dredges of society that would rent this place. So I really feel that 5B is beneficial to the community, beneficial to the neighborhood, beneficial to the people that come here that may decide, I want to live in this town and come in the future. Like I say, in the last 5 years, 3 vacations every year in VRBOs. Never had a problem. It's a good thing. You talk with the neighbors, you meet people from other parts of the country, around the world. I'm in favor of granting this application.
The motion is for denial, so that it needs a vote on the
I
denial. Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Richard, any last comments? Jane? So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of the motion to deny? And opposed, it's 3-2.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can you move up White Oaks Road?
Yes, Rob mentioned that. Okay, the buses are gone.
Oh, and can we limit it
Yes,
to
I will
comment
make that announcement right now.
And I respectfully recuse myself from this portion of the meeting. this application.
Sure.
With that, you
Tim?
have,
Tim's
you're good.
next.
Tim, you'll be a voting member. Okay. Richard's gonna recuse. Before we get going, folks, we're changing up the order here to get White Oaks and all you people get a chance to talk. I want to limit everybody to 3 minutes, please. There's a big crowd. We don't have to repeat what's been said over and over by your neighbor. I want to limit it to just Laconia residents. Please, no homeowners from Guilford or Belmont. So, with that being said, it is, this is 238, correct?
yes.
Is the applicant here? Mr. Cronin? How do you do?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Council, and staff. Thank you again for your attention to all of these cases. I know you work hard and try and stay on track on what the germane issues. The issue before you this evening in our application is a special exception request for a campground on White Oaks Road. I will note that the same subject matter came before the board a few meetings ago, and a campground in the vicinity of this site was approved and a special exception was granted. Just to give some people some background information with White Oaks Road, and those of you who've been on the board for a bit know that this property was the subject of a few efforts that were applied for but withdrawn and didn't go to a vote for duplex and single-family village-style homes, kind of Nantucket-style homes. Not well received by the abutters and the neighbors in White Oaks. They thought they had too many expensive homes and they were catering to an upscale market. Mr. Grenier, who's with us tonight, principal, Mr. Dion is here, Nick Loring, the project engineer, and Justin Kiernan is also here with City Collective. They looked at some things, talked to some folks, and they came up with the campground concept. I've had some feedback as well, as I always do in these cases, and one of the issues was, oh, there's a lot of units there, there's density. And I just wanted to make it clear that the state legislature has adopted a Campground Act at RSA 216, and that regulates the density of campgrounds. It's by dimension. We're not asking this board to grant a specific number of units. We're only asking for the special exception for use. We recognize if the special exception is granted, we would have to go through the planning process where things like traffic, lighting, landscape berms, all of those sorts of things would be considered. And it may be determined at some point that the density needs to be something less than what the state would otherwise allow to satisfy this requirement. The site is a little bit over 10 acres in size. There's currently an older home that's there. The older home, we believe, is not really salvageable, but it does have nice lines and it's kind of some historical look. Fortunately, we've had a reach out from someone that would like to salvage that, maybe take it apart and put it on another lot. So I think that's a good thing, and our clients are willing to allow them to do that if they so choose after having an opportunity to inspect it. This campground won't be a nightly or a weekend type visit. It will be a seasonal campground. Typically the ones that I've worked on in the past generally open sometime in April, May, early May. They make the trailers get situated prior to the middle of May, so to speak, and out by October 15th or the park closed. So it will be resident type people. Generally there's about an 80% retainage from year to year. People go there, they stay there, and they come back year to year, they close up, and they go on. You see some of the preliminary drawings with the application. There's been some thought to build some rather elaborate berms, landscape berms, to shield the visibility of this site from the abutters and the neighbors. And there's also some amenities that are consistent with some of the upper scale parks. There'd be a bathhouse, there'd be some pickleball courts, and that sort of thing. We don't have any anticipation of those to be on at night, no lighting on those types of courts or things like that. There's also been some communications with a professional manager that owns other parks or operates other parks in the state to look at it. And generally these sites are not leased. They're not subject to a rental agreement or a lease where you have to follow the Landlord and Tenant Act. And if you do have someone that may be recalcitrant, it's easy to remove them and to keep them away. You don't have to go through the standard eviction process. I was here, of course, for the prior hearing and have had my share of hearings with short-term, long-term rentals and everything else. And I think it's a mistake to try and classify people based on the period of time that they rent or the type of unit that they choose to recreate or live in by being good or bad. I could take you on a tour of every courthouse here in New Hampshire, and at the call of the list at 9 o'clock, I could show you some long-term renters and property owners that are less than stellar citizens. So I think to isolate bad behavior to people that may rent for a period of time or in a campground as opposed to someplace else is a mistake. And as your counsel, very able and experienced counsel, has said, the process tonight in our case is to look at the special exception criteria, which is a little bit different than the short-term rental criteria, and see if we meet that process. One thing that caught my interest in the regulations and also in your prior communication was the use of community. That word on its face seems pretty simple, but in the legal world it has somewhat different significance. That word has been debate in a couple of legal cases. One is Britton versus Chester, and another one's an Ossipee case, where land use boards had made decisions based on community, meaning either the specific neighborhood where the property was located or the town in which it sat. But our Supreme Court says community is much broader than your own hometown. It extends beyond the borders of the community and can even be statewide. And I mentioned that with respect to campgrounds. You look at some of the criteria saying what's the historical significance. Well, campgrounds have kind of been a staple and a rite of passage in New Hampshire for a long time. And there's far fewer of them around today than there used to be, in part because of the value of waterfront property. We all know some of the campgrounds that have been around this lake and these communities that have closed, and now they have townhouses or condos or expensive homes. And I understand that. People that own them want value. Some people may choose to restrict them and put them into conservation, but other people may choose to sell them. So there's definitely a demand for campers. The campers today are a lot different than the campers of my youth, or the tents. Some of them, if you see the Prevost buses over at Laconia, I think some of those can run $2 to $5 million. We have a representative from a company here that's going to make campers available. Talked a little bit about the design and the quality of those types of units and the success they've had with the camps and the management type of style and business practice that they follow. As far as, campsite benefits in general to the community, certainly supports local core economic base and tourism. In your master plan, you talk about attracting tourism and expanding it, and expanding tax base. People that come here, whether they stay in a hotel, a motel, or VRBO, or a summer place, or a seasonal place, they spend money. They buy boats, they go to dinner, they go to restaurants, they go to all the different businesses down in the weirs throughout the community. They do put dollars in their communities, and they generally stay there. Have a campground, these people stay close, they stay local, they patronize, and may provide some much-needed employees during the season. When you look at the seasonal campgrounds, generally the focus is probably a 6 to 8 week period. School gets out the end of June, get a couple of weeks in June. July is very busy, of course, and then we all know that the tourism starts to fade in August when people have to return home to school and get kids off to college and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a short-term activity, and it's focused, and I would say July would be your best month. The campground also, it does not remove land, valuable land, from the housing stock for the long term. So you could have a campground here, you're not putting in rebar and permanent foundations and building things that will last forever. I know you're doing master plan revisions, and we have sewer that's here now that wasn't at the RR1 and RR2 when the master plan and the zoning ordinance was drafted. So a lot of things can change, and it's easy to say, okay, we've got something better, and you can remove those campers. In terms of municipal demand on services, well, by statute, they can't make it a residence and put children in the schools. With professional management, they're well-regulated, well-controlled, and easy to evict. And that makes for happy neighbors. Some of the things that you might see around town, if you've been down to the Breeze at all, you have a campground right next door there that's been there for years. It's had no negative effect on any of the values down in the Glendale section. Likewise at Laconia, that's been there forever, owned by the state. That has a lot of campsites there. Scenic Drive, Samoset, all of those areas, their values have skyrocketed. And when you see those people in those campgrounds, Laconia is transient. I think you can rent it by the week. Those people are pretty smart. They don't pull out on Friday afternoons or Saturday mornings. So they probably bail out at 5 in the morning on a weekday, and you never see them. You've been there around a lot. They avoid the traffic when they can. In terms of the criteria for our special exception narrative, we have some support in the record that we provided. We talked about the municipal services. There's not an unreasonable demand on municipal services. The sewer will be connected, and there'll be a community water system, so those two take care of that. Police, fire, and emergency service demand. There'll be a great sight distance on this road, traffic sight distance for easy access. The entrance will be done with existing ITE and code regulations, so all your access ways will be compliant. All of the campground regulations and best management practices will be in place, and we'll handle that. There'll be compliance with the ordinance provisions as it relates to any site plan review or any conditions that may go in there. Compatibility with the surrounding area, I know that will be a matter of discussion for this evening, and I understand, and if I lived on White Oaks Road for a while, I probably would not want anything to change. That's human nature. But people that own property have a right to develop it and put it to productive use. It's a community benefit to have productive use of property. This particular use, if approved, depending on the density, will generate significant tax dollars for the community every single year. It would be the gift that keeps on giving. In terms of the buffers, those berms can be enhanced. The landscaping can be enhanced. All the lighting would be down reflected and be planning board compliant, so you have no negative night sky ordinance. In terms of the input that we've had from some folks. We've got a letter here, and I don't think you've had them. And I think because I expect some commentary here, I'd like to read them into the record. I know it may take some time, but some of you may not have a chance to read them. This one's from a Jamie Crum from 1184 Weirs Boulevard, Laconia. To the City of Laconia and members of the Zoning Board, I am writing to express my strong support for the proposed Skyview Acres campground development. As a lifelong resident of Laconia and a campground owner in central New Hampshire for the past 26 years, I have a deep connection to this community and a thorough understanding of the campground industry and its role in our region. With the high cost of living and rising housing prices, campgrounds have become one of the most affordable ways for people to enjoy the Lakes region. Seasonal campsite rentals provide families, retirees, and working individuals with access to the area at a fraction of the cost of single-family homes or condominiums. This affordability allows people to spend extended time in the region without the financial burden associated with purchasing or maintaining expensive real estate. Unlike single-family homes, condominiums, or high-turnover weekly rentals, seasonal campground sites are widely known to have a limited impact on neighboring properties. Seasonal campers typically stay for extended periods, resulting in lower traffic volume, reduced noise, and more consistent community-oriented use of the land compared to short-term weekly rentals that experience frequent turnover and higher levels of activity. In addition, seasonal campground sites do not strain local housing markets or contribute to rising property values and taxes. Campgrounds typically require fewer municipal services, generate tourism-related revenue, and bring visitors who support local businesses such as restaurants, retail shops, and service providers. Seasonal campers often become long-term supporters of the community, returning year after year and building strong ties to the area. Demand for campground sites continues to grow. Many campgrounds in the region currently have wait lists of 5 to 10 years, demonstrating a clear need for additional campground capacity. Seasonal sites in particular offer a practical and sustainable alternative to more intensive residential or short-term rental development while still supporting economic growth. Based on my experience as both a lifelong Laconia resident and a longtime campground owner, I believe the Skyview Acres campground proposal represents a balanced and responsible use of land that aligns with the needs of the community. I respectfully encourage the city to support this proposal. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Jamie Crum. I have another one from a Mr. Dave Domenico. Dear members of the Laconia Zoning Board of Adjustment, I am writing in support of the proposed RV campground at 238 White Oaks Road. As a local cottage owner who rents to the public, I frequently receive requests for visitors asking whether they can bring an RV or stay in their own camper. This reflects a real and growing demand for affordable, flexible lodging options that are currently limited within the city of Laconia. The proposed campground directly addresses this need in an appropriate location. The site is well suited for a seasonal, low-intensity recreational use that aligns with the intent of the RR2 zoning district. An RV campground preserves open space, limits permanent structures, and avoids the impacts associated with higher density residential development while providing economic benefit through tourism and local spending. Importantly, this proposal supports affordability and accessibility without placing additional strain on housing availability, schools, or year-round municipal services. Traffic impacts are predictable and manageable, and the use can be conditioned to ensure compatibility with surrounding properties. For these reasons, I believe the proposed RV campground at 238 White Oaks Road represents responsible, beneficial use of the property and deserves favorable consideration by the board. Thank you for your time and attention. Dave Domenico. This one is from Nick Layton. To whom it may concern, I'm a local business owner in the city of Meredith. I also do significant business in Laconia and several abutting towns throughout the Lakes region. I am writing to express my strong support for the proposed campground at 238 White Oaks Road in Laconia. The Lakes region is in desperate need of more affordable lodging options that allow families and visitors to enjoy the area without the barrier of purchasing or renting high-end townhomes or expensive lakefront homes. Campgrounds have historically filled this role and were once one of the region's greatest attractions. When I was growing up, camping and fishing at Lake Winnipesaukee for the weekend was common for local families, neighbors, and visitors alike. Those experiences brought people into the area, supported local businesses, and created lifelong connections to the region. This proposal reflects that same spirit and provides a practical, affordable solution that benefits both residents and tourists. I believe that the campground is well-suited for the area and represents a thoughtful approach to preserving the character of the Lakes region while supporting tourism and local activity. Thank you for the opportunity to provide my input and for considering this proposal. It's another letter here. This one is from Jeffrey Ivancic. I'm writing to express my support for the proposed RV campground at 238 White Oaks Road. I have a long-standing personal connection to Laconia. When I was a child, my family used to rent cottages at Nazwa, and those experiences are a large part of why Laconia remains meaningful to me today. Affordable, accessible lodging options like those cottages made it possible for families like mine to enjoy the area, support local businesses, and return year after year. As a long-term visitor, the proposal also holds personal significance for our family. The opportunity to stay in the area and share the same experiences with our children and hopefully our grandchildren, the natural beauty of the Lakes region, allows us the opportunity to introduce the lifestyle of the summers in the region while building long-term memories for them and hopefully allowing them to root themselves in the area for many seasons to come. In reviewing this proposal, I appreciate that this proposal reflects a development approach that takes affordability and accessibility into consideration. An RV campground provides a lower-cost lodging option for visitors and families who want to experience Laconia but may not be able to afford hotels or short-term rentals, helping keeping the city welcoming a broad range of people at every income level, which has been a long-term attraction to the region. The site at 238 White Oaks Road is well-suited for seasonal recreational use that preserves open space while allowing the land to contribute positively to the community. An RV campground allows the region to maintain rural character, limiting permanent structures and avoiding impacts typically associated with higher density residential development. Importantly, this proposal provides economic benefit to the city without placing additional strain on housing availability, schools, or year-round services. When we stay at the campground, given its location, we will support the local restaurants, grocery stores, fuel stations, and other local attractions which create local employment for the region. Given the limited access to Laconia, the RV campground will have a limited impact on the existing traffic in the area, where a full-time residential development will increase daily traffic. A seasonal concept will avoid daily commuter congestion. With appropriate conditions relating to buffering, site layout, and operations, the RV campground can create an environment that is beneficial to both the neighboring properties and allows visitors a quality experience as well. In closing, I look forward to a positive outcome from the board in approving this RV campground so that the families such as ours can introduce the beauty of the region for generations of their families, and that they will come to appreciate the area as we have over the years. Thank you for allowing us to be heard, and hopefully this proposal meets the approval of the board. There's also another one here that's rather lengthy. I'll just paraphrase it and say it has similar comments to the others, and concludes that it believes it's a good use. I'll also note for the agricultural piece, there were some questions on the prior ones. The stone wall will remain, that area in the front, which is there, so that's not going to go anyplace. Also, in your packet, we've had an appraiser, Mark McKeon, take a look at it and look at the particular site and the neighborhood, and he rendered an opinion letter concluding that, in his opinion of many years, he does not believe that if this is granted, it would diminish the value of surrounding properties. I think that's also reflected in some of the properties near campgrounds that we all know of, including the one by the Breeze and Laconia, which seem to be compatible with the ever-increasing values around the Lakes region. There's also a traffic summary. I recognize that's something that's more akin to the planning board, but we asked for a traffic summary to be submitted, particularly with the access and clear sight distances, to make sure that we had adequate sight distance there for safe turning movements. And I know there's some commentary about White Oaks Road, but if you look at it in its parallel relation to Weirs Boulevard, you know, the roads aren't all that different in terms of size and width. both one lane in each direction for two-lane roadways. The Weirs Boulevard carries safely many, many more vehicles than White Oaks Road. Likewise, if you look from the Weirs Rotary up to the Meredith Rotary at McDonald's, again, one lane in each direction. And the traffic, even during peak season, with the exception of Bike Week, which I know is a crawl almost everywhere down around the Weirs, manages the traffic safely and efficiently. Just check my notes here. I think that covers my notes. I'd like to ask the gentleman from the dealer to come up for a moment, if he would, and explain the type of units that you'll be proposing here.
All right, great.
Thank you. If you please introduce yourself to the board, state your name and your address.
I'll get it, yeah. How you doing? My name is Bernie Culleton. I work at Campers Inn RV. I've been working there for 15 years as RV matchmaker and now brand ambassador. So I really enjoy working there, and I really enjoy the work that we do. Would it be okay if I reached out and handed these brochures to you guys?
Certainly.
Yeah. And I apologize for not knowing Robert's rules, so.
I'll pass it.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. So, yeah, if I say something out of context or whatever, you can just let me know, okay? The job that we do at Campers Inn is helping people's dreams come true, right? There's a lot of people my age, I'm 65 years old, been working our whole lives, saving money to try to someday do something that, can be a little bit more like the Joneses, so to speak. And to have the dream of having a lake house, for the lack of a better term, is a dream that so many people have and cannot attain. RVing helps people do that. With instead of spending $1 million on a 1,200 square foot house, they can have something maybe a little bit smaller, great location, and as you can see with these brochures, they have lovely amenities. So they have the pride of ownership, and they actually, have something that they can call their own, and be able to live the life and spend time with their loved ones. The biggest thing that RVing does for people and places like they're proposing is that it brings families together. And from my experience as an RVer, I know that seasonal campgrounds are more like communities. They're not just a place to go for a couple of days and take off and maybe go to another campground for a couple of days. People that commit to being a seasonal RVer are really committing to that community. And they set up rules for safety for not only the RV owners and their particular families, but the neighborhoods they live in, right? And also the property that they're possessing at that time. So RVing is something that sticks in my mind. Every day, I tell these stories to my customers all the time, but, just little things like, going fishing with my grandpa when I was a kid, right? And I'm thinking about it, and you see this happen all the time. You see the little 4 or 5 year old going with grandpa, and the first time they actually touch a worm, it's like the freakiest thing for that particular child, and they're so excited. And then finally, with a little coaxing and cooperation, they get that worm on there, and it's such a success story, especially when they catch that little sunfish, right? That little sunfish that the little girl helps reel in, and grandpa makes sure that everything's okay. And for the first time in their life, they actually touch that little fish. And they're so excited, like, I touched a fish, right? But that's RVing, spending time with your family. And these seasonal sites, they don't typically go just for a year or two. They go generationally. They get passed down to their kids and to their kids. And we're so fortunate to be in an industry that helps people like that spend that time together. Now, I know the previous speaker gave a lot of details. I did look some stuff up myself, and because I do a lot of research, being brand ambassador, I talk to a lot of people from around the country. And this man, Scott Bear, he owns Care Consulting, and they create a document for KOA, Camping and Outdoor Hospitality. And it's not just for KOA, they just use it, but it's for the whole industry, right? And what they say, on average, on a daily basis, an RVing family, not counting their stay, the cost to stay, spend $181 per day. So in a seasonal campground, people may start as early as May and leave as late as October. They might stay there 60 or 70 or 80 days in a year. And for, say if they end up having 50 campsites, that's over $500,000 of strict cash going to the community, not counting the extra workers that they're gonna be bringing on, skilled and non-skilled labor. So there might be some kids that need jobs for the summer. They can work at the campground, help around the pool, make sure that the pickleball court stays clean or whatever it may be. Empty the trash at the restrooms. There's so much that's involved in a community. And then a relatively small place like that, these people aren't going in and out with their RVs every day. The RVs are staying there. Like Campers Inn, hopefully if everything goes well, we'll be bringing RVs up and they could stay there for several years. That RV doesn't leave the property for several years until they decide if they want to move it somewhere else or whatever it may be. But, RVing is just so special. And the thing of it is the reason why people enjoy these seasonal sites is that because their neighbors at the campground become their friends, become their family, the people that they spend time with, that they eat meals with and share stories in sadness, of loss or whatever it may be. But they become your family. And RVing it crosses a lot of boundaries, especially economic boundaries. I've been in campgrounds and I was just at one, I was down in Washington, D.C. For my nephew's graduation from college. Congratulations to Cohen, he did a great job. Went to George Washington University. At any rate, my neighbor, I was in a small 16-foot travel trailer, and my neighbor had an American Freedom motorhome that had to be worth $800,000. And I commented on it, I was talking to him a little bit, and he invites me right in. It's like, there is no class lines in RVing. Everyone is equal and fair, right? And people know that about that. And you're gonna get the right kind of people showing up. And they're gonna do their vetting that they need to do, and the way they have their system set up, that they don't need to worry about being stuck with someone who doesn't fit in. Someone who's kind of breaking the rules and not following protocol. They can have them removed, right? My name is Bernie Culleton, and you guys have any questions about anything that I've talked about? Okay.
Thank you, Bernie.
Thanks.
Mr. Cronin, that's the end of your presentation, I assume?
Yeah, that's it. In terms of the criteria, they talk one about the spirit and intent of the chapter there. I know that's a zoning term or a variance term, but just wanted to recognize that. Hard to say spirit intent. It's identified on the table of uses as something that would be appropriate for the zone. So in my view, it would be consistent with the spirit and intent. Otherwise, it would be a variance type issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll remind the members of the public, if there's a husband and wife that want to speak, come up together, because in a matter of time. Mr. Ingram, you take the...
Mr. Chairman, before we hear, I would like to ask that we strike 2 pieces of testimony. We said we wanted to hear only from people from Laconia. Mr. Cronin read 2 letters, one from
Meredith, yes.
Jeffrey Avek, who is from Massachusetts, and Mr. Layton, who is from Meredith, and I would like them not to be part of the record.
I guess we could do that, Grayson.
Thank you.
Understand that?
I mean, it was announced before the session started.
Yes, you're right.
That we would only hear from Laconia.
You're right. Mr. Ingram, how do you do?
Good morning, good evening. That's just copies of what we're about to say.
Thank you. My name is Suzanne Ingram, and this is my husband, Dean. And we are the direct abutters to the campground, supposed campground. And all these wonderful letters, those people are not going to be living next door to the campers. Anyway, I'm going to start by saying that our home is at 188 White Oaks Road, and we have been there for 20 years. And we strongly oppose Skyview Acres' request for a special exception. I'd like to say something about the Tuart property, and I'm not going to be long about it. But Mrs. Tuart was 101 years old, and shortly after her passing, her family put up the property for sale. And it stated, Ms. Bradley stated that it was an iconic, stately home on White Oaks Road, and it sits over 10 acres of land, a true landmark. It had high ceilings, large rooms, beautiful hardwood flooring, a sweeping veranda overlooking picturesque acreage. Inside, you would find beautiful moldings, beautiful fireplaces, large windows, and on it went. It was so beautiful that Mr. Grenier bought it. Now it's going to be destroyed or dismantled to put somewhere else, which is nice. I like that idea. Including this house was built in 1905, and that would be, historical. And it should have been salvage, yeah. And this comes along with 32 photographs if you want to look on Zillow or other websites. Mrs. Turat was also a well-known lady in town. She was a piano teacher to many of the Laconia children. Unfortunately, Mr. Granny purchased a property in 2024, and he left it to be abandoned. The home was in beautiful condition just 17 months ago. My biggest concern is the air quality. When most people envision a campground, they picture kids sitting around the campfires, toasting s'mores, and dads barbecuing hot dogs, hamburgers on the grill. Families circle around a fire pit, and all this sounds like fun unless you have asthma. I suffer from severe asthma, and I'm prone to attacks. It's a lung disease that I've dealt with all my life. Inhaling any kind of smoke introduces offensive odors, harmful chemicals in my airway, causing inflammation and swelling, which results in my coughing, wheezing, and very often ending up in the hospital. I'm unable to enjoy campfires, fire pits, and I try to avoid barbecue grills. If a 128-site campground is forced next to our home, it will be life-changing for me. We won't be able to open our windows in our home. We will no longer be able to enjoy our outdoor deck, and I may have to resort to wearing a 95 mask whenever I venture outside. I hate having asthma, but I can't change that. Having open spaces and clearing air are the two main reasons we bought on White Oaks Road, nice country road like where we came from. I'm also concerned about our safety and security. How can anyone possibly know the background of these folks? Happy campers, yes, they might be happy campers. Proposed campground will have 128 sites. As overly populated as that sounds, it doesn't begin the usual turnover of a campground into consideration. From early spring to late fall, if only one camper at one of the sites has a mental health problem, how would anyone know? If just one camper is a sex offender, or an arsonist, or nasty drunk, or drug addict, or thief, or a peeping Tom, how would anyone know? And more importantly, how would we, full-time residents of White Oaks Road, prepare for this invasion? Approving the special exception would be a terrible mistake. Please protect the rural character of our neighborhood.
As my wife said, I also oppose having a campground built at 238 White Oaks Road. In August of 2024, Mr. Grenier purchased one of the nicest properties on our road, and now he wants to destroy it. And why would he want to do that? Because he's a land developer and not an historic home restorer. When a land developer considers buying a property like 238 White Oaks Road, he doesn't see the iconic 1905 home that we all admire. He sees an opportunity for development. So how does a developer leverage this opportunity? Well, he finds a way to shoehorn as many dwelling units onto the property as possible. But sometimes there are obstacles standing in the way. Annoying little details like zoning regulations. Most people, including my wife and I, appreciate zoning because its purpose is to create a balanced community. It's a way to ensure proper land use and to keep property values stable. But if you're a land developer, zoning is like the red-headed stepchild that was never fully accepted. For a developer, zoning only creates uncertainty and adds costs and adds delays to his project. But let's say you're in a car accident. Aren't seatbelts and airbags good things to have? Well, if you own a home and a developer happens to buy a nearby property, having zoning regulations there to protect you is also a good thing to have. We all tend to take things like safety devices in our cars and zoning regulations for granted until we need them. And if we do, we just hope and pray that they'll be there to protect us. And so far, our zoning has protected us. First, Mr. Grenier applied for a zoning variance to build 12 duplexes within a RR2 corridor on White Oaks Road. Wisely and appropriately, the ZBA denied that application because the plan was too dense and it would have adversely affected the neighborhood. Then Mr. Grenier considered building 12 dwellings, and he stopped by our house to talk it over with us. We told him that 12 was still too many, and that wouldn't fit into our neighborhood either. Ultimately, he withdrew his proposal before the ZBA board voted on it. So here we are this evening, as the ZBA board considers Mr. Grenier's latest attempt. This time, he's applied for a special exception that would enable him to squeeze a 128-site campground onto a parcel that's located in one of only 3 RR corridors in Laconia. So looking back, 24 dwelling units were denied, 12 were withdrawn, and now it's up to 128. This is proof positive that truth really is stranger than fiction. I could stand here and give you many reasons to deny this absurd campground request, but I want to leave some thunder for our friends and neighbors to talk about. I would like to say something about the price that we will pay, meaning all of the folks living in the neighborhood. We will pay if this special exception is approved. No, Mr. Grenier won't be knocking on our doors asking for money. The price that I'm talking about will be two-tiered. First will be the loss of the solitude and enjoyment. And secondly will be the considerable loss of valuation. I predict that the peacefulness that we now enjoy will be replaced by anger and frustration. I also predict that someday all of our homes will be for sale. Either you will want to sell yours or your heirs will inherit it and may decide to sell it. But eventually it will be put up for sale. And when that day comes, a realtor will need to list your property. So how will he describe your home? Will the realtor say, this is a charming home in a quiet rural neighborhood? Or will he say, this lovely home is close to the XYZ campground? Believe me, there would be a huge difference in the desirability and therefore in the sale price of your home. I think there would be a lot of potential buyers interested in the rural neighborhood example, but there's a good possibility that very few buyers would be interested in the close to the campground example. And if you think I'm exaggerating, tune into the HGTV series, Unsellable Houses. If this campground, a for-profit commercial enterprise, complete with an event pavilion and a laundromat and a general store and a dog park, is allowed to operate in our neighborhood, who knows, someday your house may be featured on Unsellable Houses. Final thoughts. Mr. Grenier knew about the RR2 zoning before he bought 238 White Oaks Road, but he bought it anyway. And thankfully, those regulations have prevented him from building something that would have been overpopulated and totally out of character. So, Mr. Grenier, instead of repeatedly hurling spaghetti at the wall, why not build a few single-family homes on appropriately sized lots, a project that complies with the spirit and the intent of the zoning regulations? Homes that you and the neighborhood and the city can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram and Mrs. Next. Is there anybody else who would like to speak about this matter?
Hoping somebody else is gonna break the ice before I had to get up here. Well, we've been here before, and you all know this is not my favorite thing to do.
State your name, please, for the record.
Glenn and Margot Joyce. We're direct abutters on the northern edge of the piece of property. We have about a 700-foot property line with the proposed campground. This picture taken from my deck.
It's looking at the campground.
One's looking at 238 White Oaks Road. The other one is looking towards Paugus Bay. I omitted the house that's right there because apparently that's going to go away. But anyway, I think I prepared a little bit better this time, but I took from the Laconia website for zoning explanations. RR1 and RR2 is intended to recognize historic, scenic, and agricultural values of Parade Road, Meredith Center, and White Oaks Road. And that's right off Laconia's website. I took a couple excerpts from the present application, which I didn't believe were real truthful. There were select neighbors that do not want housing on this property. I believe that this is a gross misrepresentation of our opinion, and I believe the opinions of others here also. Quote, reasonable use of the property. If you adhere to the existing zoning, 2-acre lots, single-family housing, I believe that would be considered reasonable use of this property. Quote, there's another campground about 2 miles from the property of 238 White Oaks Road. That's true, there is. That's the White Oaks RV Park and campground. That's also located in a commercial residential district. And I don't believe that's comparing apples to apples. We got RR1 and the CR. This is going to be a commercial business, which is inconsistent also with RR1 and RR2 zoning. And in fact, it might be a few commercial businesses, as Dean mentioned. I mean, we're going to rent RV sites. There's going to be a general store.
Which has to be supplied.
Laundry facilities. And RR2 typically allows for home businesses, which there are many on White Oaks Road. So I guess we get down to the character of the neighborhood. And I believe 128 campsites is certainly going to change the character of the neighborhood. That's 128 RVs possible. That's probably an additional 128 automobiles, cars, trucks, bikes, motorcycles, etc. Probably in at least 256 additional people, because nobody goes camping alone. I believe there'll be significant light pollution will be created from parked RVs, vehicles coming and going, including whatever park lighting there is, whatever store lighting there might be, pool lighting, pavilion lighting. And there will be a barrage of headlights shining into our windows as each camper pulls into their sites. Additional noise from vehicles. Most vehicles are going to be much closer to our house than White Oaks Road presently is. And I don't know what's going to go on at the pavilion, but it's usually noisy from any pavilion I've seen. I guess we'll get down to traffic. Multiple large vehicles turning into the campground and onto White Oaks Road. This will take up both lanes at times. Most of these truck and trailer units are over 50 feet combination minimum, and I would believe that much of the stone wall would have to be removed to create 2 access points at both proposed entrances. 128 vehicles coming and going at all times of the day. There's more traffic. The camp store additionally will have more store, be delivery trucks to supply the store. Propane truck, ice truck, beer truck, Coke trucks, dairy, chips, crackers, Cisco foods, and so on. Campers will probably order food delivery. Some more vehicles. This is creating more congestion on White Oaks Road and at the stop signs at either end, not promoting a rural character. This will certainly add call volume to the Laconia Police Department and possibly the fire department also. From a public safety point of view, this is a rural roadway. Significantly more traffic will not enhance pedestrian safety. Lots of turning vehicles will not enhance vehicular safety or pedestrian safety. And the sight distance, it might be good for 35 miles an hour if people were traveling 35 miles an hour on White Oaks Road. I took this next part from page 4 of the master plan, adopted May 8th, 2018, similar to the same page that Attorney Cronin had referenced. Laconia will maintain a balance between our beautiful natural resources and continuing economic development. That's on the master plan. I haven't really seen much of that balance. We've had a campground already approved about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The White Oaks Preserve condominiums are in R1 or R2. Those are under construction. Lady of the Lakes cluster development halfway down the road. Sarasota Circle is being developed. I'm not sure if it's quite done yet. I don't know if you call that a cluster development or not, but they're pretty well packed in there. There was a solar farm approved, 14 townhomes on the corner of White Oaks Road and Endicott. 8-unit cluster by Brady Sullivan, I believe, just has gone through. And the new surf coaster, Lakeview at White Oaks, is also going to be adding more traffic to the road. And 28 proposed units near the beginning of White Oaks and Lake Street. And this is all accessed from White Oaks Road. I believe we need to tip the scale back to beautiful and natural resources, low-density residential and agricultural uses. And that's why we are opposed.
Thank you, Joyces.
I would like to just say something about the RVs, because we are RVers. So we do have experience in traveling with RVs. Our RV is a 3411. With our truck, it's 50 feet long. Getting out of our driveway, backing into our driveway is a cacophony of accidents that could happen. People speed on that road. People don't stop. We try and do the early to leave and late to come home. But you're talking 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 pound RVs going up and down that road. That road has a history of being posted at times because of rain, and it's not a road to take those. The last time it was posted was in 2022. I couldn't find a full list of how many times it had been posted, but we all have to be aware of that. This is significant traffic, and heavy-duty traffic. People that are buying RVs, he's right. They're all different. There's 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. Some of these are 40 feet to 45 feet. They are, they carry toy haulers. These people come with multiple e-bikes. They carry their own golf carts. They bring their own four-wheelers, and they bring their own things in. These are things that are going to also be on White Oaks Road, coming in and out of that park. And I think we have to be aware of that. There's problems. There are some problems with RVs. We've had lithium-ion battery fire problems. that have been coming up in the past years because many are trying to run off solar setups. The e-bikes have had the lithium-ion fires, so to say that it's not going to impact us, I think is not true. I think it is going to affect the police. I think it is going to affect fire. And you're going to store those on the lots. If people don't disconnect the batteries or trickle charge those batteries correctly, there's going to be fires. I just wanted to know if there's any questions about the RVs. That they are beautiful RVs. RVing is a blast. I'm all for RVing, but this is a huge density. This is a business right next to us. This is not taking care of our rural route and our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Yes, come on up. How do you
I'm
do?
gonna be the quickest one here. My name's Steve Converse. I live at 286 White Oaks Road. 3-4 houses up the street. Just a couple things I picked up on, that our road is the same as the boulevard. The boulevard has sidewalks. We have all this development going up and down White Oaks Road. Where's our sidewalks? And you can't say it's wetlands with this. I believe it's the Lady of the Lakes. I'm not sure if this is the same developer, but there was no appreciation for anyone that lives on White Oaks Road through that whole disaster road construction that was going on over there for months. Leave the equipment in the middle of the road, block people's driveways. It was absolutely the worst construction I've ever seen. Oh yeah, so we're talking about, I mean, just reiterating what they were just talking about. We start with 18 houses, we go to 12 houses, and then 128 campsites. I've been there since '96. I've run up and down that road, walked that road, used to be daily. You can't walk that road anymore. Nutcases, there's way too much traffic on that road, so our rural development is already pretty much gone. Let's not make it any worse. And no one, it doesn't even take anybody with common sense to say that 128 campground or campers next to your house is not depreciating your value. I don't need an appraiser to tell me that. We all know it, every one of us. So that's about all I got. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Smith.
Anne Marie Cedrone.
I'm speaking on behalf of my parents. They live at 774 White Oaks Road. Cedrone is their last name. 85 and 84. So my mom is sitting here, my dad's at home. So we are speaking on their behalf. I agree with everything that was said so far. I obviously want to reiterate that the special exception is granted only when the criteria is met, which obviously she stated. I don't believe they did a good job. I don't believe they met all of the criteria. I will do my best in a timely manner to point out the obvious. So first things, they talk about the state of disrepair. So everybody that's grown up on White Oaks Road knows this house. People that even never lived on White Oaks Road know this house. They listed the actual listing where it described this house. And at no point does it come in, this house was in disrepair. Mrs. Tuart, who was in Irwin, she lived there. Her family owned this property from the 1900s. House was built in early 1900. Like any old house, you're gonna have issues, right? So the day this property was listed was the day it was purchased. So the person that purchased this, they bought it. I don't understand how you buy a house in the same day. You don't do any type of inspections. You don't do anything. You just buy that house. So to me, you're a developer. You have one intent only, and it's not to save that property. It is not to keep that house and that property that for over 100 years has been there. So people that know that area, that is what they've seen. They drive the road, they see the house, they see the field, They see the deer, they see the turkeys. They don't see an RV park, right? So I'm a little suspicious of someone that buys a house without doing their due diligence and then turns around and says, well, it's in disrepair and we can't do anything with it, so we want you to give us a special exception so that we can get the most out of it. They took away any opportunity for someone else to purchase this house and bring it back, or, you know, a family to live there and enjoy it like Mrs. Tuart did. She chose to live there. It was her family home. So that in itself, I think, speaks volumes to what the intent was. And I don't believe that giving a special exception to someone who did this with the intent only to develop that property warrants an approval on that. I really don't. That's not a good reason. So I also would like to just say that White Oaks Road, there have been, let me get it here, key points or aspects of White Oaks Road. White Oaks Road itself featured established single-family homes with properties reflecting different eras, such as homes built in the 1960s. The road is near popular Weirs Beach area, a historic tourism hub on Lake Winnipesaukee, bringing summer crowds and waterfront activities to the region. So the area is obviously known for its beauty. There was a person, I won't say her name, but this is one of her descriptions. This is a lovely little field that showcases the natural beauty of White Oaks with a small glimpse of Paugus Bay that can enjoy when going back and forth into town. We have been so fortunate that the lifelong Laconia resident, Dottie Tuart, lived at 238 for many, many years and cherished her home and the land. She passed away in July, not even 6 months ago, at the age of 101. When you drive by in the evening at the perfect time, you may catch a view of the old stone walls surrounding the peaceful fields during a gorgeous rainbow sunset. Imagine looking over to see more houses and cars taking over that rural landscape of White Oaks Road that has been there for over 100 years. So I don't believe that saying that this house is in disrepair, that it warrants this type of development. They also make it seem like the reason they chose to go to this was because the neighbors objected. From what I understand, they didn't present the single-family home. I don't know why they said there was objection, I'm not sure. But if you have within your limits to build single-family homes, why not just do that? Why are you asking for a special exception, especially when you don't meet the criteria? So let me get to the criteria. So they talk about, obviously, it being a permitted use. I understand that. Then they talk about it will not create undue traffic congestion or impair pedestrian safety. Well, I think Steve Converse covered it. He used to run White Oaks Road. You can't do that anymore. My mom has walked forever that road. She can't. I fear for her life when she says to me, I want to go out for a walk. Don't do it, Mom. Cars fly up and down that road, even though it's, 30, 35 miles an hour. No one goes that speed limit. You come down from Prescott, they are just barreling down that road. So now you're talking about bringing in 128 or whatever they're allowed. If they only have one vehicle per pad, that's 128 vehicles. What's the likelihood that they're not going to have family members that show up with their kids, and next thing you know, that family of 2 is now a family of 7? Now you multiply that by 100. I don't understand the reasoning. They talked about the intent is a park to be a place where campers may stay on site to enjoy the amenities. May is not a guarantee. That is far from a guarantee. So just because you think that they're going to stay, that doesn't mean they're going to stay. Plus, when he was talking about the description, he talked about how much it was going to bring in for money to visit here and visit there. That's not staying there. When you're going to restaurants, when you're going to, buy things or go to the stores, you're traveling in and out. That increases traffic. So that I do not believe meets the criteria. I was looking at the memorandum they drew up where they give, this company provides their opinion with no significant impact on traffic operations. So I'm reading all of this, and it says they referenced a campsite obtained at Cold Brook Campground in the town of Webster. So I kind of Googled that because I was curious. And this campground is surrounded by no homes. It's mostly trees. This is an area where you could see a campground. There's nothing residential about this. That place has 129 sites. So when you look at where that is located and you compare that to the Weirs Beach, that's not a tourist area. So they're talking about the traffic impact using an area and a campground that doesn't match what we have in the Weirs Beach. To me, it's useless. But since they brought it up, I'm going to point out a couple of things about this campsite. These were people that had issues. They talked about how traffic increase. A police report showed a 20% increase in traffic calls in the area surrounding the campground. All the people that there was horrendous smoke, there was noise, the property values definitely suffered. They talked about the increase of people staying there that you cannot keep. You can't lock them in. So what does that mean? They go wandering around. They're traveling. They're doing whatever. That is an increase in the neighborhood. There is a safety risk. And anybody that lives around, if you grant this, you're opening the door to other areas on the street and everything about White Oaks Road that makes it so special that people like my parents moved from Massachusetts to get away from. You're taking that all away and you're destroying it. You are taking a street that an RV park does not belong in the center of the street. And yes, you can talk about the development at one end and versus the other end. And yes, you know what? There is development on both of those sides. However, you also have other roads. You've got the Boulevard, you've got 11B, you've got Lake Street. You get on the interior of White Oaks Road, you are stuck. Traffic is horrendous enough. And you know, people that don't live on White Oaks Road don't understand how much traffic there really is. I mean, growing up, we knew every person that lived there. It was all residential. And it still is all residential. And that's the way it should stay. So I realize I just rambled on about that. However, then I want to get to their second question, the criteria. I apologize. They talk about the public water drainage. I'm not quite sure that there wouldn't be a drainage issue. Again, when you have that much site, where does the water go? 128 paths, that's a lot. So where does it go? Well, gravity is going to tell you it's probably going to go downhill, which is the abutters below. So I don't think they met that. The excessive demand for municipal and fire, again, these campers are not going to stay on site. It's ridiculous to say that 128 sites, bringing in I don't know how many people, is not going to impact it. So I believe they did not meet that as well. Let's see. Then we talk about the out of character and adjacent with the neighborhood. Well, I already discussed it. For over 100 years, not just Miss Two Arts, but all of those houses, single-family residential houses. This is the furthest thing. This is so far out of character. I don't know where it fits, but it doesn't fit on White Oaks Road. And to approve this is dismissing everyone and how they feel. And yes, you know what? You did point out that it's not about how people feel. It's about proving that it is detriment to the neighborhood. This is absolutely a detriment to the neighborhood. I hope that you guys realize that and that the surrounding homes are single family and that this has no business being on White Oaks Road. And I really hope you guys take that into account.
And I only have a couple of comments.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah. Where's this? Oh, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Did you, at the beginning of this, mention that limitation of 3 minutes per.
Yes, I did, and,
I apologize, but I would like to point out this. It's really difficult to counter everything that was presented in 3 minutes.
that's why I gave you the time.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. I really
only
do.
have a couple of quick things to say. I agree with everything my sister said, and then in addition to that, you folks probably
Sorry about
already
that.
know that White Oaks Road is already extremely overdeveloped, and when I reviewed your regulations, this proposal will not lessen congestion in the streets. It will not promote health and general welfare to the neighborhood. It will not prevent the overcrowding of the area according to your regulations. That's all I really had. Thank you so much.
I do
for your-
apologize
Thank
for
you.
running over. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Good evening. I'm Bill Donahue, live down on Weirs Boulevard, and we are the victims of the water runoff that currently comes off the hill. Currently, with the soil intact, with the trees, with the top 4 horizons of the soil, we still get water runoff. It comes through our property, impacts our driveway, we've had to dig trenches. Removing that to build these campsites is gonna increase any of this damage that we're currently experiencing. Just the nature of the water runoff. Add to that, by the way, I am also an RVer, so I've been to campsites around the New England area, a lot of tent camping and stuff like that too. And I've seen all sorts of different things, including people using the woods as bathrooms. We're right on the tree line at the back side of this campground. With the water that comes through it, you know, you're gonna get biohazards, potential trash that may be laying around moved into the water. It flows through Overlook across Weirs Boulevard into Paugus Bay. So that's where the water ends up eventually. So that's a big problem. The other thing too is the wind direction, a lot of it comes down the hill to Overlook. With 128 sites with campfires, that's gonna bring a lot of smoke down into our area. As it is now, we get the leaves off the hill, and we all kind of make fun of these tumbleweeds that come down into our property every spring from the hill. With that smoke, that's gonna definitely, you know, impact us. And we do have an older association. I'm actually one of the younger ones. And then you add in the noise. 128 campsites, that's gonna be 3-4 people on average per site. You're looking at 500 or 600 people if that place is full. Pickleball, tonight was the first time I heard about pickleball. I just started playing that. That's a lot of noise. So you add that into it. Parties, again, been to campgrounds all over the place. Some are quiet, some are very loud at night. So I just wanted to bring up that. It will definitely impact those of us that live at the Overlook Condo Association. Not to mention 128 fire pits. Don't know what that would represent as far as a fire hazard too in the area. So that's all I had to say.
And he did it in under 3 minutes.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Alicia Emery, and I live at 181 White Oaks Road, and I'm sure you all know me from the last couple times. This campground is the 3rd attempt to develop this property. We all know that development is going to happen. We know it's not gonna stay an open field, but the development needs to be reasonable and within the current zoning without special exceptions and variances. The city as a whole is being overdeveloped, and this road in particular is taking the brunt of it. I don't know how much longer we're gonna have an RR2 road at the rate that we are going. As far as issues with the special exception, the traffic, number one is traffic. We've always had extra traffic in the summer months or bike week, but now we have an increase in traffic all year. We have 2 projects, Lady of the Lakes Estates and White Oaks Preserve, going on this road, and have not yet felt the impact of the traffic from that, without even adding another big project. The requested use will create undue traffic congestion. People aren't gonna stay at the campground. They're gonna go hiking and boating into the beaches. They're gonna be in and out several times a day. They're gonna order food. They're, you know, it's not that they're just gonna stay there or even stay there most of their time. There's a lot to explore in the area, and why wouldn't they? In the last at least in the last 2 or 3 years, the speed on the road has increased significantly. People ignore the speed limit, pass on double yellow lines, the road has become more dangerous. Pulling out of my driveway and going to my mom's house 4 houses down the street, there have been numerous times where nobody's coming up the hill. I pull out and they're right on me, and almost been rear-ended a number of times just trying to pull into her driveway. As far as walking, it's a safety issue. There is no sidewalks. I used to walk occasionally on the road. You really can't anymore. Honestly, you have to be careful getting the mail out of your mailbox and make sure nobody's coming, because they whip by you. They get way too close to the white line. They don't give you space. It has just become very dangerous. I feel that the campground definitely will increase demand for police or fire protection between noise complaints and other issues. And obviously, we must not have enough force to even man the road to, you know, control speed up there. So how are we gonna keep up with everything else going on? I'm all for a campground, but this campground is in an open field in the middle of single-family homes. It's not in a wooded area. It's not gonna be quiet. I don't care how much buffering you put in, how many trees you plant. We are in an area that's very echoey. We can hear the sheep down the road. I hear the boats on the lake in the summer, the concerts from Bank of New Hampshire, the music from the wedding at the Margate Resort, which is on Lake Street. Noise and lighting are gonna absolutely be an issue. I don't see how 128 spots with a pool, a dog park, athletic courts, an event pavilion, and general store is reasonable on a parcel of this size. As it's already been said, 2 people each, you're talking 256 adults. Even if 1 out of 4 has a dog, there's 32 dogs, plus kids and everyone else that's gonna show up. People are on vacation at a campground. They want to enjoy a fire, the music, bring their dogs, have a good time. That's desirable, understandable, and I would want the same. I'm not against camping, but it doesn't belong in the middle of a residential street with all surrounded by homes that we need to get up in the morning and we maybe don't want to hear this all night long. The campground down the road is in the commercial zone, which has already been stated, and at the end of the street. As it's been said before by many, they bought this property knowing what the zoning was. Nobody's trying to stop anyone from developing the property, but why can't they develop it within the limits of the zoning without asking for special exceptions and variances? You could have 5 or 6 beautiful homes, and nobody would complain to having residential homes that were within reason and not way over the density. I just feel it's unfair for everyone to assume that people come in and buy these places and just think they're gonna go and get a variance to do exactly what they want, even though they know what they're allowed to do. There's no hardship, and it totally will change the character of the road forever. And like everyone said, this road has already changed so much. I built my house in 2000, and it's already seen so much change. And I understand that we are developing places and there is change, but it needs to be reasonable, and we need to stop. We are overdeveloping, and at some point, we're not gonna be able to go back. And I know that it probably doesn't matter much, but we do have a petition that's signed, 2 pages of signatures, that I will give to the board.
Thank you.
That oppose the campground on White Oaks Road.
Thank you, Ms. Emery.
Thank you.
Good night.
I'll go quickly. I'll be a minute.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Julie Worth, and I live on White Oaks Road as well. And this board was very kind last time and stood up to the variance that was being proposed because it was too dense, because you had common sense, you're intelligent people, and I'm asking you to do that again, to understand that this property, yes, is gorgeous, and that I was appalled when I heard that this was the second proposal for this property. I thought it was a joke at first, because I thought, did not make sense. And I'm asking you to do it again. to be kind to us residents, and the owner has a right to make reasonable, that's the key word. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, Julie. Hello, ma'am.
Good evening, Christina Batchelder. I live at 181 White Oaks Road. I am reading a statement that my son had prepared. He is also a resident of 181 White Oaks Road, but is currently in college. He'd like to start by saying that the new proposal states that it addresses the neighbors' concerns of housing on the property and year-round homes. Neither of these were expressed concern of the neighbors. Instead, the main concerns were about density and the project's negative impact on the character of the neighborhood. As it's been stated from other people, the campground would also increase traffic on an increasingly busy road. This is especially concerning due to the history of accidents, including fatal ones on White Oaks Road in the past, especially during summer months. I myself used to walk the road quite often, but have not for many years now. The proposal is not limited to 128 camper spots. It is also including pools, playgrounds, sports courts, and a pavilion for events such as live music. These facilities will generate significant noise when in use. White Oaks Road is very echoey. From my home during the summer, you can clearly hear the wedding and music from the Margate located 3,800 feet away. The proposed campground would be about 300 feet away from my house. Given a similar sound level to a wedding, the campground will be heard about 5 times louder than the wedding venue from my house. That's a conservative estimate given elevation change and obstructions between there and the Margate. Activity at the campground would occur nightly rather than weekly, making the noise much more noticeable and more frequent. The immediate area surrounding 238 White Oaks Road is characterized by low-density, single-family housing. The proposed 128-site campground introduces a high density that is not compatible with the intended density and rural character of the neighborhood. Allowing this would depart from the established character of the neighborhood and undermine the purpose of the ordinance. Recently, there was a smaller campground that the zoning board approved, but this has no comparison. This campground only has 15 spots, while the proposed project contains 128 RV spots, nearly 10 times the size. It doesn't have a pavilion, a pool, a playground, or sports. And it's also set back from the road. It's on an owner's property, so there should be little impact. When considering the impact on property values, it is appropriate for the board to consider testimony from residents in the affected neighborhood. The consistent opposition thus far demonstrates that this development is undesirable in this rural community. Future home buyers seeking a quiet, low-density setting would share the same preferences. As a result, it is reasonable to expect negative impacts on the property values and neighborhood stability. The property fails to meet all of the requirements and does not address the concerns from any of the affected neighbors and diminishes the rural character of the neighborhood. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the board to deny the application. I would just like to add that the other campgrounds that they mentioned earlier are not in the middle of a residential street. The Laconia is not surrounded by residential homes, such as this is proposed on White Oaks Road. A large RV park does not allow in a neighborhood, and I'd like you to consider the dreams of the people who own on White Oaks Road, not the dreams of the people that want to go RVing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Batchelder.
Mr. Chair, could I just remind you, you have 4 more applications after this?
You know, I thought about sneaking the little ones in first and then doing this.
Just because we're running out of time.
Hello, ma'am.
I'll be very fast. My name is Pam Woodworth, and I live at 257 Weirs Boulevard. I just want to echo what my neighbor said about drainage. That has been my absolute first reaction to any development at this property, because the amount of water that flows off that abutting property is quite substantial. We have swales built, and again, it does flow all the way down and eventually end up in Paugus Bay. So that is one of my major concerns. This particular proposal, I am against for a lot of reasons you've all heard them. The smoke, the noise, and all of that. I think it's just too big and not an appropriate spot for it. And this developer has an opportunity within the current regulations to develop within the 2-acre minimum. And I think that would be supported. Thank you.
For coming in, Pamela. Yes, sir.
Hey, Sean Dudek, 334 White Oaks Road. My parents moved up here in the mid-'80s. I was born and raised on the road. I've been on the road for 40 years, raising my 2 girls on the road. I own businesses in town. Obviously, I echo everything that all the other residents on the road had to say, and I don't think you're going to find a single resident on the road that's in favor of this. We've been overdeveloped on that road for a long time. We haven't had many years of any quiet, from Brady Sullivan to the Langley Cove to all these other developments. I think common sense says that this is a horrible fit for the road, and the residents don't deserve that we're even here talking about this at this point. This is a asinine project to propose on a road like this. Everything that everybody has said about this road is accurate. You literally cannot walk on that road anymore. I grew up riding bikes on the road. I grew up with friends on the road. You're going to push out all of the citizens that have been around for a long time. I want to sell my house. I don't want to listen to this. I have developments that I can now see through the woods behind our house. There's now the Langley Cove access, so now we're going to have another access road from the boulevard up to our road to add more traffic. It's an asinine approach to this situation. I think this is just a cash grab that these guys are throwing out there, and I strongly disagree with it.
Thank you for coming in, Sean.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Jack Borbeau. I'm a resident in Laconia. I actually live right around the corner. I guess I'm the odd man out tonight. I wanted to come and express my support. I think this is a good use of the land, and I think it would benefit the city in the long run and all the taxpayers. I think it's important to note that this isn't really a build and sell and get out. This is kind of a long-term own, operate, and manage. As Mr. Cronin stated, there'd be a management company involved, and I think that's important to note. I mean, the developers and owners, they want to protect their investment and work with the neighbors, and I think there's measures in place to keep people happy, but I think this is would be a good use of the land, and it would, you know, benefit the city. Low strain on the resources, and the list goes on.
Very good, Jack. Thank you for having a different view.
My name is Larry Kenny, resident Laconia, just over a year now. I can speak on behalf of the gentlemen that want to develop it, that they built the home that we now reside in, and I can attest that whatever they propose to you, as far as buffers, as far as security, as far as privacy, that they are going to follow through and make sure that all of these things that they're guaranteeing the abutters and neighbors will actually become a reality, and that they're very reputable, and I think that it would be something that would enhance the area.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Francine Ray. I live at 209 White Oaks Road. Hi, Laura. I've been there for 40-plus years, and I live directly across the street from the field where they're proposing this development. And I don't really have anything else to add to what's already been said, other than just to basically reiterate that the very suggestion that you could put a large 128-site campground in the middle of a residential area with all of its amenities, with the lighting and the traffic and the safety on the road and the noise, and not have a negative impact on all of these neighbors is just totally laughable. It can't be done. It's going to have a negative impact on everybody there. Thank you for your
Thank you,
time,
Francine.
consideration. Thank you.
Good evening again, Mike Conant, Ward 6. First off, as the sitting council member for this ward, I just want to be on record as being very much opposed. I think common sense should prevail. I hope all of you are familiar with the area and have done drive-bys. The folks that live there, they live there because the zoning protects them. A lot of them have been there for decades, and they're there because of the zoning. Don't sell out Laconia. Make the developers, hold them to the current zoning. Look, we can't let Laconia get away from us. And if we do something like this, it'll just show other developers that they can get away with anything in Laconia. And we don't want to set that precedent. It's just wrong. There was a campground that was recently approved at the bottom end of White Oaks Road. Completely different situation. It's a homeowner that's lived there for a long, long time, ran his business out of this site. And he's going to put in 15 potential campsites, and most of them are for family and friends. In fact, he has 2 of them there currently, and none of these will be visible from the street. These are all in the back. If you drive by that site, you'll see one camper that you can see from the road. But it's not jamming a campground in a RR2 zone. Common sense should prevail. And to the gentleman that pointed out a point of order of, hey, people should only have 3 minutes. I'm not sure why we had to sit through all the lawyer speak to begin this meeting, and I'm also not sure why we had to sit through a RV sales presentation. So, thank you.
Thank you. All righty. I think it's time to close the public hearing on this. I'm sure Mr. Cronin wants to say something.
Sure. I think a lot's been said, and I think I need to respond to some of them. First off, the easy ones. Water. There were a lot of comments about water. This would be an AOT type of project. You need AOT approval, which would regulate and study the water. Your planning regulations require that your pre and post volume, velocity, and runoff not be any different. So in other words, anything that you do on that site can't generate more water downstream. So that resolves that water issue that people are concerned about. Secondly, there was discussion about sidewalks. Had a chance to chat to Mr. Grenier. He will put sidewalks along his frontage and invite others along that road to put in sidewalks, so there's not a short sidewalk to nowhere. And maybe it's a good step for the long term to have sidewalks on that side of the road. There's some confusion as to the campground that was approved a few weeks back. That's not the one down at the corner of Endicott in the commercial zone that's been there for a significant period of time. Council Hoffman does not believe that it is the ZBA's responsibility to protect the undeveloped land. Mr. Hayward questions if this applicant changes the character, putting in a business who were attracted to White Oaks Road for its rural character would view any development as a
They're a very nice presentation I got to see it, but then you withdrew it. And it never did come before the board for any kind of comment or why
The reason
is
why,
that?
we heard from the abutters in the first one, we were hopeful that they would support that, but they would not. And because a variance is required for that, we have a much higher standard. We have the hardship standard to satisfy as also the valuation standard. So we thought it would be more prudent to look at it this way. Some folks had reached out to Mr. Grenier and Mr. Dion and said that there's a need for this, there's some waiting lists. Campground would be a good site there, and it wouldn't be a permanent use of the land, it would be something to make it productive. Relative to the house and its condition, the existing house, I don't think that's relevant. Mr. Grenier's been in it, smart guy, he's been in the business for a long time. When he says it's not salvageable, I believe it. People looking at it from the street might have a different view, and they're entitled to that. But again, I don't think it's relevant to the matter before you.
One other thing, when you were talking about building homes on that property and the cost of putting in a road, you know, you mentioned that just a minute ago. What's it gonna cost you to put in that?
And that, you don't have to do that to the same standards as you would road standards.
I know, but there's a lot
They're
there.
just like pathways through it. You wouldn't have to do that under your planning regulations for a campground. You
You
might
don't
not
have
even,
to have a road to handle the weight of an RV?
no, a lot of them have gravel. You don't have to have paved surfaces. You certainly don't have to have the cross-section that costs you all the money to do it. So, you know, that again would be a planning board discretionary issue, is what they would think would be appropriate for it. But you find many campgrounds that don't have the same road requirements to do a housing development.
So I'm getting the picture, you're going to this route because A, it's the easier route to get the land developed, and it's gonna be less expensive.
Yeah, it's a standard that works, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense to build 5 houses and lose money. We can talk about greedy developers
No, but
and
your
profits.
second proposal was more than 5 houses. It was duplexes. I thought that was a very nice proposal.
It wasn't it was single families. The first one was duplexes, and there was
24, right?
the first one was duplexes, 11 or 12 with 22
Yeah.
units. Too many units,
Yeah.
and they didn't like duplexes, right?
Okay.
The second one was single family. To address that concern, we'd filed it, and people have a right. I prefer when people reach out to me before a meeting like tonight and tell me what they like or don't like, because sometimes we can address their concerns and make a modification. So we had some reach out people saying they weren't gonna support the new one. And if you folks denied the second plan and you go to the Superior Court with a variance, it's a lot harder to prevail on that than it is in a special.
The second proposal.
I appreciate the feedback, and I'm sure Mr. Dion and Mr. Grenier hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Very good,
time.
sir.
Sorry we took up so much of your night.
We'll close the public hearing once and for all. Discussion amongst the board.
And I am going to excuse myself. I did not realize that Mrs. Ray was an abutter to this, and unfortunately, I cannot advise the board on this application. So I
You
will
know
leave you.
Mrs. Ray?
I know Mrs. Ray and her husband very well.
Love.
However, I can send someone else from my office, and I will tell them nothing.
Alrighty. Well, thank you
I
for coming in
apologize.
tonight and sitting through all this
Of course.
proposal. Stay warm.
Thank you.
They seem to be cramming a lot into 150 people, and then the service trucks for the campers, propane, feed in the store, servicing everything else. It just seems like an awful lot for this property. Eric?
So to try to stay within the rules of what we're actually ruling on, right? Like, we're not here to decide the density, right? Or to consider the density. We're just here to consider the usage of the special exception, right? However, they did include renderings and plans in the application. So I feel like we can consider that that is what they intend to put on the road, right?
Correct.
Honestly, I feel like the renderings, I mean, it's preposterous, to be honest.
I tend to agree. I was trying to be nicer about it.
I mean, you look at that, even if you put that for buffers, how many years do you think it's gonna take to put all of those trees to grow so that you're buffering the neighbors? And I personally, just anecdotal information, there isn't any comment I heard that anyone would be thrilled about having a campground next to or across the street from them, that it would devalue their property. And I think common sense tells me neighbors' property will be devalued. And that this is a different situation than the campground that got approved last month. Very different, because of the location of the land, and that is,
Tree cover.
Yeah, number 7.
Visibility from the road.
The proposed location is appropriate for the requested use, not this property is not appropriate.
Agreed.
And it is it's dumped right in the middle of houses. It is not appropriate. So I don't think it meets 6, I don't think it meets 7.
Let's,
I want to add to that of the one we did last month, the variance, the owner is going to be the caretaker of the property.
Yep.
There are a couple of small farms neighborhood. I don't. Again.
Are as follows. Number 1, the use is authorized in this chapter. Yes, it is. Number 2, the requested use will not create undue traffic congestion or impair pedestrian safety. We have heard from people that live on White Oaks Road that they already have a traffic situation because it is getting to be highly developed, and putting in 128 campgrounds would more than likely increase and add to already a traffic problem on that road. Number 3, the request will not overload any public water drainage or sewer system or alter a municipal system, and there will be no significant increase in stormwater or adjacent property to adjacent property or streets. There is public sewer and water, so it's probably not going to be a problem.
No water.
No water, just sewer, just sewer. And the storm drain, I'm sure that the stormwater would be taken care of if, if it went to planning board, they would put in requirements that would handle stormwater. So I am not worried about number 3. Number 4, the request will not create excessive demand from municipal police, fire protection, or solid waste disposal surfaces. I don't think there's really any evidence at this point to say that it would create an excessive demand for that. Number 5, there are no special provisions. Number 6, the request will not create hazards to health, safety, or general welfare, nor be a detriment to the character of the adjacent neighborhood. I do believe it does not meet number 6 because we are talking about plunking in 128 units right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Definitely is going to change the character of a very residential neighborhood. Number 7, the proposed location is appropriate. We do not believe it is appropriate. It's a wide open field. Again, 128 units in this wide open field without any buffering from the neighbors is just going to look really foreign to that neighborhood, and I don't think it's an appropriate use for this particular lot. And number 5, the request use is consistent with the spirit and intent of the chapter. It would be because you can allow a campground with a special exception, so therefore it does meet number 8. So my proposal or my motion is really basing the denial more on number 2, number 6, and number 7.
we have a motion.
And I will second.
Thank you, Jane. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Denied. Thank you. Okay, we have a happy audience. Let's go, we'll rip through it.
I love that decision.
We can take a break.
I'm babysitting right now.
Take a break. Yeah, it's downstairs. I'm just gonna bring the next one up and let him start talking a little bit.
Yeah, but she's not a voting member, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Unless though Richard comes back, right? Because, oh wait, are we doing another White Oak Road?
Pogus Park is
Okay,
next.
August Park, that's easy. That's a presented, take a vote.
We should have done the smaller ones first and saved this for last. I think we messed up on the order. And dust it. It'd be better off. Welcome back.
Come back.
Take a nap.
Is Pogus Park Road here? I have to have you wait for your presentation because Eric is taking a quick break, but I just want to get you ready here, all right?
It's not gonna be fair, well, it's not fair to them. Everybody's.
I thought we had adopted a time limit. I know. Because I thought we had adopted 9 o'clock. But I did not see it, that it was in the rules and procedures.
Do you want to use it from the report? See, I'm stuck. What do you want?
I am at your mercy.
Oh, but your poor babysitter.
Oh.
But your Michaela's saying to sleep.
I would assume she is. I would assume she was in bed 2 hours ago. She's probably more patient than our butters. Do we want to?
I don't have the paperwork on Pogus Park. Do you have it handy?
I do, on 122 Pogus Park.
Yeah, do you have it
It's
handy?
right here.
Did I throw it away by mistake?
Here. Take my packet.
I recognize that page. I saw it somewhere in my file here.
All they want to do is they're doing a project, they're gonna dig up the driveway and put in porous stuff, right? They're gonna dig up the grass and put in porous material.
Her name is Tara?
I don't recall. Is that what it is?
I think that's what it is.
I'm sorry. I'll get it right next time. I'm kind of like Richard.
Are you not gonna keep it? or-
Okay, Pogus Park, please.
Do you want this or not?
I have mine.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Christopher Berry. I'm with Berry Surveying and Engineering, representing the owners and applicants here this evening. I'll be very brief. The applicants are looking to essentially put an addition on the front side of their home at Pogus Park. That addition will meet all setbacks. We're not here for any setback or area variance. There's a provision within the Laconia zoning ordinance that requires a 70% green space on lots in this particular zone, which, as you might imagine, on a 10,000 square foot lot is excessively hard to meet. So I would point out that the existing home on site, driveway, paved surfaces, and such, there's actually a nonconformance that takes place not just in the frontage of the property and the area of the front property, but also the site existing is nonconforming from a green space standpoint. And so what the application endeavors to do is remove impervious surface, install the new addition at the front of the site, remove the remaining amount of impervious surface on site so that the impervious coverage goes down through the redevelopment of the site. But inherently, we can't make something green that isn't greenable. And so, as we point out in our application, not only are we reducing the impervious surface, but we're also reducing what's known as the effective impervious surface by grabbing the roof leaders and runoff from the roof and reinfiltrating that back into the ground. I would point out, as part of the hardship test here, and I'll get to the 5 criteria in a moment, that there's essentially no development that could take place on this site that would not further reduce the existing nonconformance as it pertains to the 70% green space coverage. Are there questions on our application, Mr. Chair, or would you like him to move to the 5 criteria?
Go right ahead. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Christopher's 5.
Christopher?
Yep.
You can go right into it, sir.
All right, I'll dash right into it. So granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. I think we all know, this is a fairly experienced board. Public interest is really a test of whether or not the essential character of the neighborhood changes. The fact that we're reducing impervious surface on site, but also reducing the amount of green space on site does not reduce the essential character of the neighborhood by way of the fact that we're installing an addition that completely complies with zoning otherwise. Granting the variance would be consistent with the spirit of the ordinance. Here again, the litmus test is whether or not the health, welfare, and safety of the public is in any detriment through the installation of this addition. And as we point out in our writings, the stormwater improvements that we're proposing are a complete benefit to Paugus Bay. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. The test here is whether or not the gain to the applicant far outweighs the detriment to the general public or the ordinance itself. And as we point out, we feel that this is a gain to water quality within the area which the green space requirement endeavors to promote on lakeside properties. Granting the variance will not result in a diminution of the surrounding property values. Here, this is a test of what we consider use on the property. This is a single-family home. It's a single-family addition. These are like-kind uses to all abutting properties in both use but also scale and magnitude, as I point out in my writings. And special conditions of the property exist such that the literal enforcement of the ordinance result in an unnecessary hardship. Here again, this is a non-conforming lot, so it's 10,000 square feet, non-conforming in both area but also frontage. It's also non-conforming in green space requirements now, and there's essentially not even an additional shed that could be installed without a variance. We understood that in taking on this project and the variance request, and therefore we've proposed a fairly robust amount of enhancements to the stormwater systems that the green space otherwise is trying to promote. So with that, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that the board has.
Are you eliminating the garage that's there and building one in front?
That's correct.
Is that basically what we're doing?
Yes, sir.
And you're all well within the setback?
Yes, sir.
Your water is controlled?
Yes, sir.
Sounds good to me.
What is the actual percentage of green space do you think that you end up with? Just curious.
Yep. So currently it's 65%, and we're going down to 56%.
Okay, thank you.
Rough numbers, but they're in detail in the plan.
All righty. Any questions from the board for Mr. Christopher? No?
I'll make a motion.
We have to ask
Probably
for
have a
public
Oh,
input.
we're gonna do that. Okay, sorry.
Is there any members of the public like to speak
I
about
was
this
just trying to-
proposal? With that being said, I'll close the public hearing and we'll go to the board for discussion. Sounds good to me. I'm very familiar. I've lived next door to this house for 5 winters, so I'm pretty familiar with the
entire neighborhood.
The neighborhood, yeah.
The entire neighborhood is pre-existing, non-conforming.
Yeah, it's pretty typical for the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's just high density.
So now you want me to make the motion so we can get this off the?
Well, we gotta do discussion
Okay,
first, okay?
okay.
We're ready for a
Anything
motion.
else?
Go ahead.
Everyone sounds like they like the idea, so.
Yeah.
I make a motion to grant the variance for application ZB 2026-26, allowing a variance from Article 4, Section 235-19F, subsection 2, subsection D, and to use as the finding of facts that which is presented in the application.
Excellent. We have a motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Mr. McKay and Chris, I apologize for making you wait and listen to the White Oaks first.
As I said to the abutting group as they left, we brought crowds out ourselves in the past, so we understand completely.
Good luck on your project, Mr. McKay.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have 15 Doe Avenue. Hello.
Good evening, how are you all?
Lovely.
Was it something I said? My name is Stephen LaBeouf, I'm the owner of 15 Doe Ave. I bought that property back last summer, and there was a 1870 house on it. It had been abandoned for quite a while, and I tore it down with the intent of building a new house, rather than follow the footprint of the old house, which was hitting the setbacks left, right, and on the street, and also left no space to get to, there's a back building back there. It left no space whatsoever to get to that back building. So what I'd like to do is build a much smaller house. I'm requesting a 5-foot variance or setback. So to leave enough room for a 2-car wide driveway to get to the back building, which would give me the off-street parking that I probably should have had to begin with. I've spoke to my neighbors. The one to the east of me is totally fine with it. The one that I'm encroaching on her property is totally fine with it. So anyways.
I don't have pictures of that.
I have some pictures here. I sent them all with, I didn't bring a handout. This is a little bit new to me, so
You got it.
everybody's got a handout.
Is this the back building you're trying to get to?
That's the back building that was existing. This is the front building that was there.
Right,
That you tore down.
And
and this is,
I put a lawn temporarily because I just didn't want to look at dirt. And my neighbors appreciated that as well.
oh, I see right here, on the back you have where you,
That's the property line and
Yeah.
where I'm looking to build the new house.
Yeah.
This here will kind of give you an idea of what the access was
Looks like now.
to that back building.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
With that house
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I might have another one. View from the
Yeah.
street. There was basically no
See,
access.
That's to show how, how narrow it is to get to that back building.
So he's moving the building to the left, closer to the property line.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that's right, he's moving it
Here's a
this
better
way.
picture.
Yeah.
That was
picture
the
of new
existing
home.
building.
Yeah, but what we're saying is, you're moving the house this way, closer to the property line this way?
Well, the old house that was there was also in the setback, but it was also in the setback on the east side and on the street.
It was a bigger footprint, correct?
It had a way bigger footprint.
Yes, okay.
This one's only gonna be
Yeah.
24 wide by 40.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. All right. And Robbie's meeting the green space requirement with the new house?
Well, if he's smaller, wouldn't you?
We
I
have
don't
not
know.
run the green space calculations for them.
It's quite a bit smaller. I do have Bailey Associates did a survey for me. If you want this copy. They actually showed the old building on here as well as the placement of the new building.
Perfect, that's what I wanted to see.
Okay, why don't you put it right in front of the chairman here?
So this is the old building, dotted line here.
This is the driveway that
Well,
to the back.
there's no driveway shown on here. All
Right.
it shows, the dotted line is the old building, which comes out over here.
Yeah.
The new building is right here.
How much are we encroaching?
5 feet, I think.
I'm asking for 5 feet. The old building was about 6.5, I believe you
What,
said.
what do we have right here, the neighbor?
It's a large parcel. I have the, it doesn't even show because this is, the house that's here, well, you can just see
I
in front
see,
of it,
okay,
right,
yeah,
is right
yeah.
there.
They got plenty of space. That's all I wanted to see.
She was totally on board with this. I sent her everything before I even applied.
All right.
I didn't want to blindside her. That's probably got a better picture of, well, you can't see her house, you can't see her house, but you can see the property to the left. She's got a driveway that goes to,
Yeah.
she had an
I gotta
RV
take
back
my-
there or something.
my position. You see, Marcia, there's a giant space
Oh,
between
yeah,
the house
yeah,
next
yeah,
door.
yeah.
So I don't have a problem at all.
Yeah.
Want to keep this there? I'm sure it costs a lot of money to get it printed.
Yeah.
All righty. So I'll have you take a seat and see if there's any members of the public who'd like to speak about this proposal.
Okay.
With nothing being said, I will close the public hearing. And we'll go to the board for discussion.
I don't have any issues.
Reasonable.
Seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think 5 feet is a reasonable request.
Extremely.
Director, quick question. Is there a rule in Laconia that gives a moratorium of time from when a building is demolished until it can be rebuilt in the same footprint?
There is.
And what is that time? That'll make you work, eh? They told you a year?
They told me a year downstairs, it was a year, but I don't want to build the same footprint. It hasn't
Yes.
been a year. This was demolished in July.
No, I understand.
So
I
last year. Oh, okay.
We have to educate ourselves. This is like classroom training right here.
So any of the other things, green space, all that stuff, the planning will pick up on all of that.
So when they submit their building permit is when we'll do our review to make sure that it meets all the other zoning requirements. They knew ahead of the game that they needed the variance for setback, but when we review it for, when they submit their actual building permit, that's when we'll review for zoning compliance for everything else.
Understood? Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm good with everything.
Very good.
Your turn.
So, just so you are aware, because you asked, it's 23568, and it's abandonment, and that it gives the discontinuance of the 12 months.
Eric, you want my cheat sheet?
I got it. So I'll make a motion to approve application ZB 2026-027, requesting a variance from Article 23, Section 35 of the zoning ordinance, finding of facts as listed in the application.
Very good, thank you. We have a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jane. Any further discussion? I don't see any issues. It's tight up there, but he's building a smaller house. It'll be a lot nicer than what got torn down, so it seems to be good to go.
All those in favor?
Anybody in favor? Nobody's opposed? Good luck, Mr. Levesque.
Thank you so much.
Moving right along. 17 Wentworth Cove.
This is the last one.
No, there's another white,
One more.
another White Oaks after this. I got a mess here. I'm all discombobulated.
got a mess here too.
I have nothing like that either.
Good evening. Is everybody as tired as I am?
Oh, we're just getting started.
Yeah. My name is Justin Daigneault, and I'm with Granite Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Brian and Deborah Bayou. I have Melissa Marquis with Marquis Contracting Group as well. The applicant is proposing to raise the existing single-family residence and construct a new single-family residence. It's located at 17 Wentworth Cove Road in Laconia on tax map 269 lot 1. The property is located within the SFR and the Shoreland Protection Overlay District. The property includes an application to the ZBA for a variance request for encroachment into the 50-foot waterfront setback, and that's ZBA 235-19, section F2B. I also wanted to note that this project will require an NHDS shoreland permit. And I've got basically 3 plans. This first plan is the removal, kind of like the removal plan, pretty much. The house, the garage, there's a cabin, and all the driveway, everything. There's 2 entrances off Wentworth Cove. Maybe I can just bring it over or speak real loud. So pretty much everything on the site is going to be torn down. What you see colored in there, that is the building within the 50-foot setback as it sits today. So there's almost 2,500 square feet of existing building porches that are within the 50-foot setback currently. The next sheet.
Did you say 2,500?
Yep, 2,495 to be exact. So this sheet is the proposed site plan, and you can clearly see only this yellow area now is within the 50-foot setback, and it's just the porch. So we've gone down to 1 driveway. You know, it's this single-family residential house. It's pushed way back to be more compliant with zoning and state regulations. And then this last sheet really kind of shows existing versus proposed. So we've got the existing survey plan. Here's the red. That's going to be the proposed building overlaid on top of it. And this little orange area here is the 81 square feet of area that is encroaching in the 50-foot setback that wasn't encroached before, that we need the variance for. So significant reduction in that whole waterfront buffer. I believe we do have a letter from the 2 adjacent abutters in support of the project. It was submitted, I think, after our application, but I do believe I submitted it to the city. I'm not sure if you guys got a copy of it, but I do have a copy here, and I'll just read it.
You don't have to, Jason.
Okay.
We believe you.
And I could go through the criteria if you want, or if there's any questions that the board has.
We're talking about, you need the variance for that 81 square feet of deck. That's the only reason. I'm just curious, how much closer to the water is that than it was before?
So.
Just to the water, I'm just curious.
Yep, so the existing building was, I wanna say, I wanna say the existing building was within, I don't know, what's that? It's 10 feet of the lake.
Approximate, yeah.
Yeah, and now the building itself, the entire structure is gonna be beyond 50 feet with only a portion of the deck, and that's it's only encroaching in the 50-foot setback by 9.1 feet.
Yeah.
So it's 40.9 feet away?
Yeah.
board doesn't mind me adding in.
Basically,
If I've done my math correct?
you're taking 1,500 feet of encroachment and you're making it 80 feet of encroachment. Is that-
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that plan kind of really dictates it, because this is the 50-foot setback here.
Yeah.
And all of that was encroaching, so.
So it's a great improvement to the neighborhood and the lakefront.
Yeah.
Rob wanted to say something.
It's only a technicality that he's here because he's in the SPOD.
Okay.
Other than that, he's making the property more conforming,
Yeah.
and normally we wouldn't have required him to come to the zoning board for the variance because he's in the SPOD, and that 81 square feet wasn't covered before. We have to, even though the vast majority of the project is making everything much more conforming. So it's just a poorly written zoning ordinance that drives him back here.
And he had to wait through that other presentation. I apologize for that.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's okay.
I'd say he's good to go.
Yeah.
Although you have to close it and ask
Oh, yeah.
for the public.
We'll close the, I have to ask if there's anybody who'd like to speak for or against this project. Young lady, would you like to come up? Everybody else talk tonight. No? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll seek a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant variance for application ZB 2026-029, a variance from Article 4, Section 235-19F, subsection 2, subsection B, and we will use as the finding of facts that information that is presented in the application.
Thank you for that proposal. I'm seeking a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? I think it's a great project overall, improvement to the neighborhood and the shoreline. It's all in favor. Whoops. Very good. Thank you, Jason. Once
Thank
again,
you.
I apologize for the late hour.
It's okay.
What happened to,
Well, it says.
33 White Oak.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman that you just went to the restroom, he was
Oh.
sitting behind me.
33 White Oaks, that's a motion for a rehearing. It is not, it's not a public hearing.
Oh, it isn't?
No.
Oh, he
It
doesn't
says
have to be
motion
here.
for rehearing.
No, and that was, I think that was Counselor Conant that walked out. He wasn't the
And what is that about, the 33?
So with that, there is an application that came before the zoning board the previous month for a variance to, for those lots that are bisected by another zoning district. There, you can use the lesser of the restrictor of that. So for 100 feet, they wanted to push that to, I think it was 300 feet. So that's all that they had requested with that.
I remember.
So the abutter had submitted the application for the request for the remotion. I can read their letter into the record if you'd like. That kind of explains the whole thing in sum. Dear members of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, I'm writing regarding application ZB 2026-022. As an abutter to the subject property located at 33 White Oaks Road, we are concerned about the variance that was granted on November 17th, 2025, and the impact it will have on our property. The approved variance allows for the construction of 3 additional homes, referred to House Lot 6 on the map, to be built significantly closer to our property boundary line. This approval directly affects our property's privacy and may negatively impact its value and overall enjoyment. Due to an incorrect mailing address on file with the assessor's office, we did not receive notice of the meeting and were therefore unable to attend or voice our concerns prior to the variance being granted. While we understand and respect our neighbors' desire to develop their property, it is equally important to consider the rights and impacts on surrounding abutters. In this case, the granted variance creates a substantial and lasting effect on our property. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the board reconsider the decision regarding this variance so that Exhibit A is allowed and Exhibit B is not granted. Thank you for your time and consideration. We appreciate the board's attention to this matter and the opportunity to be heard.
What do we need to do?
I feel like we got this one exactly right. I don't know. Does anyone agree? We can,
Are we
Absolutely.
going through this just as any other thing, or are we just talking amongst ourselves?
You're just talking amongst yourself and then coming to a conclusion that you either made the right call or you made the wrong call.
So this is is this a rehearing or administrative?
No,
appeal?
you would,
We're
they would be
deciding whether to
requesting a rehearing, so you would then be saying that you erred in your approval,
Yes.
and that you would grant a rehearing on that application.
I don't think we are required to.
So if you felt in their letter that they submitted, they presented compelling evidence that you had erred in the decision you had made, then that would be grounds for a rehearing.
I think the rationale they presented is also the same rationale that we heard from several people who did come that evening. And we said to them, you know, your concerns, we hear you, but they're best dealt with at the planning department. Because what we were being asked that night really wasn't germane to their issues. And I don't think that her issue, you know, is germane to what we were asked to do. So I think that our decision was right on target.
Germaine,
Yeah, but we
that's a
did-
new one, Marcia.
we didn't hold the back half of their property to a different standard than the front half over some arbitrary distance listed in the ordinance.
So this woman's thing right here is just relative, she just doesn't want it in her backyard, that's all.
Yeah.
In her defense, I did give her direction how to fill this out, and then I also told her that I thought that it would be wise to attend the planning board meeting when this comes to request an additional buffer for herself. So, just so you are.
I'm in agreement, I think.
Make everybody happy.
Yeah.
We did everything as.
Yeah, developer doesn't need to come back and rehash it.
So what do we do? Do we take a vote and say we think we,
Yep, so if you want to just take, somebody make a motion that you,
Like a
to
motion
deny them the
to
rehearing?
deny the request for a rehearing?
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Perfect, job done.
Lovely. I want to thank you all for helping me tonight. I could not do this job without you.
We do have one more item on the agenda. Yeah, it is truly administrative in nature, and it's the election of officers, which I'm sure you can knock out in less than
I
9
thought we
minutes.
already did that.
Yeah, we did.
We did that.
In our rules of procedures, it says it has to be done in January.
Oh, that's why. Okay. All right, we're doing it again in January.
With that, I don't mind if you table them, and I'll give you this information. So we've been kind of evaluating every other zoning board in the state, and we were like, you know, we should maybe make some changes to our zoning board. We don't give you a staff report like most other zoning boards don't, but it was Concord that actually does it, and it's a findings of fact that the planning department provides.
Super helpful.
We thought that it might be, we're not relaying the board to go, we still would not be laying the board to go in one direction or the other. It'd just be providing you the facts of the case, a quick summary, and then allow the agent or the abutter to get up there and provide you their, it might help streamline some of that, and might help those abutters or those people that are not really developers, that don't really know what they're doing and feeling very nervous coming to the board of what they're actually asking for. So it's helping those people out and then helping abbreviate the longer ones. So we kind of thought that might be beneficial. But we've kind of been writing some.
You would be writing the finding of facts?
Yes.
And giving them to us?
It would not be the criteria for the variance or the special exception. It would just be a mere facts of the case of.
Okay.
Their proposal. For example, I wanted to build a deck.
Yeah.
And it was going to be in the rear and side setback. All I'd be relaying to you is that they're proposing to build a deck in the rear and side setback. It's encroaching 4 feet into this setback, 3 feet into this setback. And they're seeking relief from 235, 31B.
Did you do that pretty much?
No, it's in the application, but this would be more of an exact, so that the board is not always, so our other issue that we've kind of run into that we're going to legal right now in is not that the board did anything wrong, it's the applicant wasn't clear in what they requested, and we approved it as a board, and it left some gray area for interpretation, and this would just be helping to reduce that.
Okay.
Well, there's some times when we'll get like in this, comments in our packet, like a sheet that says, you know, maybe some extra details from the city's perspective.
Yeah, and that's all it really is. It's just additional facts, just to give you more tools to make a
Not telling us
informed
what to
decision.
do,
Not,
just helping us
and,
to
and, and I
understand
try,
better.
and I hope if you ever feel like I'm telling you what to do, you slap me in the wrist and say, "Don't do that," because that's not my intention.
You prefer
Just give me the
with
high
risk?
sign, I'll,
But,
You have the ability to do that.
yeah.
What'd you say?
I just said, they can give me the high sign and I'll come over
Yeah,
and
you
do
can do that
that.
too.
I'll do that.
You can give me the elbow.
I give you the elbow.
Just that. And with that, we kind of also thought so our rules say the election in January, but we kind of thought it'd be nice to align that with the fiscal year. And the other boards also do their elections in July. So it might be nice just to align everybody so that everybody's doing officer elections in July as opposed to.
But why did we just do it like 2 months ago, I feel like?
Because it had to be done.
Because nobody had remembered to do it.
We were late.
So we were behind the power curve.
I see.
So with that, we thought,
Hey, you're the boss.
well, you guys are the boss if you wanted to do it tonight.
All we can do is make a motion to amend our rules to say that we'll elect officers in July.
And that's gonna be, so we rewrote the rules procedures to incorporate some of these changes, and that is in the rules as well.
Okay.
So we're kind of hoping to post that for public hearing next month, give that to you. We should have it out for distribution in the next few days. I think there's only a few pages left to add in, so it's just,
I move to table the election of officers pending upcoming changes to the rules and procedures.
I second that.
I appreciate that.
All in favor?
Okay,
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
okay, second that one too.
All in favor?
On a
Michael's
personal note,
tired.
I will not be at the May meeting for future reference, just let you